This 4-year-old beggar girl protects an elderly woman in a wheelchair, unaware that her son is a millionaire. 2 days later, he rewards her with something you won't believe. Comment what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important. And subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is greatly appreciated. The rain was coming down hard on the brick streets of Willow Creek that March morning, turning the sidewalks into small rivers rushing towards downtown. Lily Thompson, just 6 years old, huddled under the awning of Joe's Corner Bakery, trying to shield herself from the icy drops that insisted on soaking her worn and torn dress. Her dark hair stuck to her thin face, and her big eyes watched the flurry of people hurrying by, protected by colorful umbrellas. It had been 3 days since she'd had a full meal. The last bread she'd managed to get was the previous afternoon, when old Joe, the bakery owner, took pity on her and gave her a day-old roll. Lily knew she couldn't take advantage of the man's kindness. He'd already explained gently that he couldn't feed her every day, or other shopkeepers would complain, and she'd be in trouble. The girl adjusted the thin jacket she'd found in the trash 2 days ago. It was dirty and had some holes, but it protected her better than nothing. Her bare feet were purple with cold, and she rubbed them constantly to try to warm them up. Since running away from the county shelter 2 weeks ago, Lily had learned to fend for herself on the streets of Willow Creek, discovering the best places to sleep and which shopkeepers were more generous. The shelter had been a nightmare. The caretakers yelled at the children for any reason. The food was scarce and often spoiled, and Lily often went to bed hungry. When one of the staff members started hitting her for spilling a glass of water, she knew she had to escape. One night, when everyone was asleep, she managed to slip out the back window and ran, without stopping until she reached downtown. Now watching the rain gradually subside, Lily prepared to go out in search of some food. It was almost noon, and maybe some restaurant would have leftovers they could share with her. She was about to get up when she heard loud voices coming from the corner. "Give me the purse, lady! It'll be worse for you if you don't!" shouted one of the 3 teenagers surrounding an elderly woman in a wheelchair. Mrs. Eleanor Ellie Johnson, 78, held her brown purse firmly against her chest, her bright eyes showing more indignation than fear. She'd left home to buy some medicine at the nearby pharmacy, as she did every week when the boys appeared out of nowhere. "You should be ashamed of yourselves, robbing an old lady," Ellie said, her voice trembling not from fear, but from anger. "Where are your parents?" "Stop talking and hand over the purse," insisted the tallest boy, while the other 2 positioned themselves on either side of the wheelchair, preventing any escape. Lily watched the scene hidden behind a lamppost, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she should walk away. A 6-year-old couldn't do anything against 3 teenagers. But something in the elderly woman's defiant stance touched her deeply. Maybe it was the memory of her own grandma, who'd passed away when she was even younger, or maybe it was simply the outrage of seeing someone helpless being attacked. Without thinking twice, Lily ran out of her hiding place. "Help! Help! They're robbing the lady!" she shouted with all the strength her small lungs allowed, placing herself directly between the teenagers and Ellie. The 3 boys were startled by the sudden appearance of the child. They didn't expect anyone to interfere, much less such a small girl. Lily continued to shout, attracting the attention of everyone passing by. Shopkeepers began to emerge from their stores, curious about the commotion. "Get out of here, kid," threatened one of the boys, but his voice already showed nervousness. "No, you can't hurt her," replied Lily, extending her arms to protect Ellie, even knowing that her protection was more symbolic than real. The noise grew as Joe from the bakery appeared with a broom in his hand, followed by other shopkeepers. The teenagers realized that the situation was getting out of control and that they would soon have more problems than a simple purse was worth. "This isn't over," shouted the group leader before running, followed by the other 2. Ellie watched the girl who had put herself at risk to protect her. Lily remained in the same defensive position, panting but determined. She was just a child, obviously homeless from her tattered clothes, but she had shown courage that many adults wouldn't have. "My dear," Ellie said softly, "are you all right? Did they hurt you?" Lily turned to the woman, her big eyes shining with concern. "Are you okay? They were very big. I thought they were going to hurt you." "I'm fine, thanks to you," replied Ellie, reaching out to gently touch the girl's arm. "What's your name, little angel?" "Lily," she replied shyly, not used to displays of affection from strangers. "Lily," repeated Ellie, savoring the name. "A beautiful name for a very brave girl." At that moment Joe approached, still holding the broom. "Mrs. Johnson, are you all right? Those punks ran off, but I can call someone, if you want." "I'm fine, Joe, thanks to this little heroine here," said Ellie, smiling at Lily. "In fact, I'd like to invite her for hot chocolate at my place. It's raining, and she must be cold." Lily hesitated. She was used to mistrust, and knew she shouldn't accept invitations from strangers. But there was something in Ellie's gentle voice that reassured her, a genuine warmth that she hadn't felt in a long time. I don't have any money to pay," she mumbled, looking at her bare feet. "Who said anything about paying?" laughed Ellie. "It's the least I can do for someone who saved me. Come on, before the rain comes back harder." And so, without knowing that this encounter would change their lives forever, the two walked together down the wet street. An elderly woman in a wheelchair who had just regained faith in human kindness, and a 6-year-old girl who was about to discover what it meant to be truly cared for. Ellie's house was just 3 blocks from the town square, a simple brick building painted white with blue windows, surrounded by a small garden where roses and jasmine grew. Lily walked beside the wheelchair, observing everything with curiosity. It had been so long since she'd been inside a real house that she'd almost forgotten what it was like. "Here we are," said Ellie, fumbling with the keys with some difficulty. "Lily, dear, can you help me? My hands aren't what they used to be." The girl took the keys and opened the door, revealing a cozy interior. The room was small but organized, with well-preserved antique furniture, family photographs on the walls, and the comforting smell of cinnamon and clove coming from the kitchen. Lily had never felt such a welcoming environment. "Sit wherever you like," offered Ellie, directing her chair towards the kitchen. "I'll make us some hot chocolate. Can I help?" asked Lily timidly, following her. She was used to always offering help. It was a way of repaying people's kindness and avoiding being seen as a burden. "Of course you can, my angel. In fact, that would be a great help." The kitchen was the heart of the house. Well-seasoned iron pans hung on hooks, shelves displayed glass jars filled with spices, and a wood-burning stove occupied a corner, even though there was a modern gas stove next to it. Ellie noticed Lily's interested look. "I like to use the wood stove for some special things," she explained. "My mother always said that hot chocolate is only perfect on a real fire." Lily watched Ellie's every move with attention. The woman heated the milk in a small saucepan, added cocoa powder, sugar, and a pinch of cinnamon. The aroma that spread through the kitchen made the girl's stomach rumble loudly. "When was the last time you ate something?" asked Ellie gently, noticing Lily's embarrassment at the sound of her own hunger. "Yesterday, Joe gave me a roll," she replied quietly. "Yesterday?" Ellie stopped stirring the chocolate and looked at the girl. "And before that?" "The day before yesterday, the diner lady gave me a leftover sandwich." Ellie's heart clenched. A 6-year-old shouldn't live like this, depending on the charity of others to survive. "And where do you live, dear?" Lily hesitated. She didn't know if she should tell the truth. What if Ellie sent her back to the shelter? I live on the streets," she finally mumbled. "On the streets." Ellie's voice came out louder than she intended, startling Lily. "Sorry, my angel, I didn't mean to scare you. It's just a girl your age, and don't you have a family?" "I don't have anyone," replied Lily, her eyes filling with tears that she struggled to hold back. "My parents left when I was little, and my grandma who took care of me is gone too. Then they took me to a bad place and I ran away." Ellie finished preparing the chocolate in silence, processing what she had just heard. Such a small child, completely alone in the world, living on the streets and still having the courage to protect a stranger. She poured the chocolate into 2 mugs and placed some graham crackers on a plate. "Come on, let's sit at the table," she said, taking everything to the small kitchen table. Lily held the warm mug between her small hands, feeling the heat spread through her cold fingers. The chocolate was delicious, better than anything she remembered having. She drank it slowly, savoring each sip, while Ellie watched her with growing tenderness. "And this bad place you ran away from, was it far from here?" asked Ellie. "It was the county shelter right here, on the street behind the church," explained Lily between sips. "But the ladies there were very mean. They yelled at us, didn't give us enough food, and one of them, she hit me." Indignation overcame Ellie. How was it possible that a place intended to care for orphaned children was so cruel? "And how long have you been alone on the streets?" 2 weeks, replied Lily. "I sleep under the awning of the bakery. Joe is nice, he doesn't send me away." 2 weeks. Ellie shook her head, imagining the cold, the hunger, the fear that a 6-year-old must feel sleeping on the street. "And don't you have anyone else? Any relatives?" Lily thought for a moment. "I had a sister at the shelter with me, Letitia. She's older, she's 12 years old. But one day the lady said she went somewhere else, and I never saw her again." "Your sister," Ellie murmured. "You two were orphaned together?" "Yeah. After our parents left, Grandma took care of us. But when she was gone too, some men came and said we had to go to the shelter. Letitia took care of me there, protected me from the other bigger kids. When she left, everything got worse." Tears finally began to stream down Lily's face. It was the first time in a long time that she had talked about her sister, and the longing ached like an open wound. Ellie reached out and gently wiped the girl's tears. "You miss her a lot, don't you?" "Every night I dream that she comes back to get me," sobbed Lily. "But I think she's forgotten about me." "I'm sure your sister hasn't forgotten about you," said Ellie firmly. "Siblings never forget each other, even when they're far away." They finished the chocolate in a comfortable silence. Lily ate all the graham crackers that Ellie offered, trying not to show how hungry she was. When she finished, she looked out the window and saw that the rain had stopped completely. "I think I need to go," she said, getting up from the chair. "Thank you for the chocolate. It was the best I've ever had." "Wait," said Ellie quickly. "Where are you going?" "Back to the bakery awning. Joe lets me stay there at night." Ellie looked at that child, so small, so thin, with clothes so inadequate, for the cold that was approaching with the end of the day. She couldn't just let her go back to the street. "Lily, how about staying here tonight? I can prepare a hot bath for you. I have some clothes that I can adjust to your size, and you can sleep in the guest room." Lily's eyes widened. You would really let me?" "Of course I would. You saved me today. It's the least I can do." "But I can't pay." "Who said anything about paying?" interrupted Ellie with a smile. "You did me a big favor today, and I'd like to repay you. Besides, this house has been very quiet for a long time. It would be nice to have company." Lily hesitated. Part of her wanted to accept desperately. The idea of a hot bath and a real bed was almost irresistible. But another part was afraid. What if Ellie changed her mind? What if she did something wrong and was sent away? What if she was taken back to the shelter? "Are you afraid of me?" asked Ellie gently, noticing the hesitation. "It's not you," replied Lily. "It's just people sometimes change their minds, and I don't want to bother you. My dear, you saved my life today. How could you bother me?" Ellie held out her hand. "How about we try? If you don't feel comfortable, you can leave whenever you want. But at least today, let an old lady take care of you." Lily looked at Ellie's outstretched hand. It was small and wrinkled, but it conveyed a security that she hadn't felt in a long time. Slowly, she extended her own hand and placed it in the woman's. "Okay," she whispered, "but only for today." "Only for today," agreed Ellie, although she already knew in her heart that she wouldn't let that child go back to the street. "Now let's prepare that bath. You must be needing to warm up." While Ellie prepared the bath and separated clothes, a strange but good feeling took over her. For 5 years since she was widowed, her house had always been silent, her days always the same. Lily's presence brought an energy that she had forgotten existed. Outside, the first stars began to appear in the Willow Creek sky, and for the first time in 2 weeks, Lily would sleep safely without cold or hunger. Neither of them knew yet that this was just the beginning of a transformation that would change both their lives forever. The first rays of sunlight of the morning streamed through the guest room window when Lily woke up, disoriented for a few seconds. It had been so long since she'd slept in a real bed that she needed a moment to remember where she was. The mattress was soft, the sheets smelled of lavender, and for the first time in weeks she had slept through the entire night without waking up from cold or fear. She got up slowly, wearing the nightgown that Ellie had adjusted for her the night before. It was too big, but it was clean and warm. Her bare feet touched the cold wooden floor as she went to the window to observe the front garden, where small birds sang on the branches of the trees. The aroma of fresh coffee and toast reached her, making her stomach rumble. Lily hesitated for a moment. Would it be appropriate to leave the room? Did Ellie really want her to stay, or would it be better to leave before the woman changed her mind? "Lily, dear, are you awake already?" called Ellie's gentle voice from the kitchen. "Breakfast is ready." The girl smiled with relief and ran to the kitchen, where she found Ellie already positioned in her wheelchair, with the table set for 2. There was warm toast, butter, homemade fruit jam, scrambled eggs, and warm milk. "Good morning, my angel," said Ellie with a warm smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, I did, Mrs. Johnson. Thank you so much for everything," replied Lily, still a little shy, but visibly more rested than the day before. "That's good. Now come have breakfast with me. I made scrambled eggs. I hope you like them." Lily sat down at the table, observing the generous amount of food. "Is all this for me?" "For both of us," corrected Ellie. "An old woman like me doesn't eat much, but a growing girl needs to eat well." During breakfast, Ellie discreetly observed Lily. The girl ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it were the last meal of her life. Her manners were good. Someone had taught her how to eat properly, but there was a contained urgency in her movements, as if she expected the food to be taken away from her at any moment. "Lily," said Ellie softly, "can you read?" The girl shook her head, embarrassed. "Not very well. Grandma started teaching me, but after that, at the shelter no one cared about it." "How about I teach you?" offered Ellie. "I have a lot of free time, and it would be a pleasure to have a student." Lily's eyes sparkled. "Would you really do that?" "Of course. In fact, I have an idea. How about learning to read using my family recipes? That way you learn the letters and can still help me in the kitchen." "I would love to help you," said Lily excitedly. It was the first time in a long time that someone had offered her something beyond basic charity. They were offering knowledge, purpose. After breakfast, Ellie brought out an old notebook filled with handwritten recipes. "These are recipes that my mother taught me and her mother taught her. Let's start with something simple, cornbread." Lily concentrated intensely as Ellie pointed out each word, pronouncing slowly, 2 cups of cornmeal, 1 cup of sugar. "Cornmeal," spelled Lily, proud to recognize some letters. "Very good. You're a very smart girl," praised Ellie, and Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest. It had been so long since she'd received genuine praise. They spent the entire morning in this activity, with Lily learning new words and Ellie rediscovering the joy of teaching. The girl was a dedicated student, asking intelligent questions and demonstrating a thirst for knowledge that deeply touched the woman's heart. "Now how about we put the recipe into practice?" suggested Ellie when noon arrived. Making the cornbread together was a magical experience for both. Lily followed each instruction carefully, measuring the ingredients and mixing the batter with the seriousness of someone who was carrying out an important mission. Ellie guided each movement, feeling useful in a way she hadn't experienced in years. "My mother always said that the secret to cornbread was the care with which you mix the batter," said Ellie, as she watched Lily beating the ingredients. "You're doing it perfectly." "Do you think my sister Letitia would like this cornbread?" asked Lily suddenly, her voice full of longing. "I'm sure she would," replied Ellie gently. "Tell me more about her." "Letitia took care of me at the shelter. When the other kids were mean to me, she defended me. And when I had nightmares, she stayed in my bed until I stopped crying." Tears began to form in Lily's eyes. "I wish she was here to eat cornbread with us." Ellie felt her heart clench. "Where do you think she might be now?" "I don't know. The ladies at the shelter said she went somewhere else, but they never said where. Maybe she's in another shelter, or maybe someone took her home, like you did with me. Lily, dear, would you like to try to find your sister?" The girl's eyes widened. "Do you think it's possible?" "I don't know if it's possible, but I think it's worth trying. Your sister must be missing you as much as you miss her." While the cornbread baked, filling the house with its delicious aroma, Lily helped Ellie wash the dishes. It was a simple domestic scene, but full of meaning for both. For Lily, it represented normality, family, belonging. For Ellie, it was the return of purpose and companionship after years of loneliness. "Mrs. Johnson," said Lily hesitantly as she dried a plate, "don't you regret bringing me home?" "Regret? Why would I regret it?" "Because I have nothing to give. In return, I have no money, I have no important family, I'm not special." Ellie stopped what she was doing and turned to look directly at Lily. "My dear, you gave me the most precious thing there is. You gave me back the joy of taking care of someone. 5 years ago, since my husband passed away, I wake up every day not knowing what my purpose is. Last night, for the first time in a long time, I fell asleep happy, knowing that there was someone at home with me." "Really?" asked Lily, barely able to believe it. "Really? You brought life to this house. Just listen. Are you hearing those noises? Your laughter, your footsteps, your questions? This house was so quiet for so long that I had forgotten how good it is to have company." That afternoon, after eating the cornbread, which was delicious, Ellie suggested they take a walk around the neighborhood. She wanted to introduce Lily to the neighbors and also buy some suitable clothes for the girl. "But I can't go out like this," protested Lily, looking at her own borrowed clothes. "Of course you can. You're clean, fed, and well cared for. That's what matters." The walk through the neighborhood was revealing. Ellie was loved by all the neighbors, who greeted her warmly and showed respectful curiosity about Lily. The girl was surprised by the kindness of the people and by the pride with which Ellie introduced her. "This is Lily, a very special girl, and who is staying with me," said Ellie at each encounter. At the local clothing store, Ellie insisted on buying 2 complete outfits for Lily, including suitable shoes and a warm coat. The girl protested about the expense, but Ellie was adamant. "Every child deserves suitable clothes," she said simply. When they returned home in the late afternoon, Lily was transformed. Not just by the new clothes, but by something deeper. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen, valued, loved. "Mrs. Johnson," she said as she helped put away the groceries, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, my angel. Do you have children?" Ellie hesitated for a moment. "I have a son, Rodrigo, but he lives far away and, well, it's been a long time since we've seen each other." "Does he know I'm here?" "Not yet. But don't worry about that now." Lily noticed a sadness in Ellie's voice when she spoke about her son, but she didn't want to insist on the matter. She had learned to read people's emotions and knew when she shouldn't ask more questions. That night, after another hearty meal and another warm bath, Lily was preparing to sleep when Ellie appeared at the bedroom door with a children's storybook. "How about a story before bed?" she offered. "Would you do that?" asked Lily, her eyes shining with joy. "Of course. Choose a story you want to hear." Lily flipped through the book and chose a story about two siblings who got lost but ended up finding each other again. Ellie read in a soft voice, and Lily fell asleep smiling, dreaming that maybe, someday, she and Letitia could also be reunited. Ellie stood watching the girls sleep for a few minutes, feeling something grow in her heart that she hadn't felt in a long time. She was becoming attached to Lily in a way that she knew would be difficult to undo, but there was a growing concern. In her mind, at some point, she would have to tell her son Rodrigo about the new resident of the house. And knowing Rodrigo, she knew he wouldn't welcome the news. A week had passed since Lily had arrived at Ellie's house, and a comforting routine had been established between them. Every morning, Lily woke up early and ran to the kitchen where she helped Ellie prepare breakfast. Then they sat at the table for reading lessons, using the old recipes as a textbook. Flour, spelled Lily carefully, pointing to the word written in the recipe notebook. "Perfect," praised Ellie, beaming with pride. "You're learning very fast, my dear." Lily smiled, feeling a satisfaction she had never experienced before. At the shelter, no one cared if she could read or not. Here, each new word she learned was celebrated as a great achievement. "Mrs. Johnson," she said hesitantly, "do you think when I find Letitia, I'll be able to teach her too?" "Of course you will," replied Ellie, although a pang of worry struck her. In recent days, Lily had been constantly talking about reuniting with her sister, and Ellie didn't know if it would be possible to fulfill that expectation. "You're going to be an excellent teacher." That afternoon, while Lily was playing in the garden with a doll that Ellie had found in the attic, the woman decided to make some calls. She needed to find out more about the whereabouts of Lily's sister, but she didn't know where to start. She called the city's Department of Social Services first, but was informed that she would need official documentation to obtain information. About children in shelters. She tried the shelter where Lily had run away from, but the employee who answered was evasive and unhelpful. "I can't give information about former residents over the phone," said the woman coldly. "It's institution policy." Ellie hung up, frustrated. How was it possible that it was so difficult to reunite two sisters? She looked out the window and saw Lily humming softly while combing the doll's hair, and her heart clenched. The girl deserved to have her family back. It was late afternoon when the sound of a car stopping in front of the house interrupted the tranquility of the day. Ellie looked out the window and her heart jumped. It was Rodrigo. Her son had arrived unannounced, as he rarely did, but always at the most inconvenient times. "Lily, dear," she called quickly. "Come here, please." The girl ran in, still holding the doll. "Yes, Mrs. Johnson. My son has arrived for a visit. He doesn't know you're here yet," explained Ellie nervously. "Maybe it's better if you stay in your room for now, just until I explain the situation to him." Lily felt her stomach drop. She knew this type of situation. When adults needed to explain about her, it usually meant that she would be sent away. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked in a small voice. "No, my angel, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just that Rodrigo might be surprised, and I need to talk to him first. Don't worry, okay?" Lily nodded and ran to the room, but left the door ajar so she could hear the conversation. Her heart was pounding. She had learned to listen to the adults' conversations to prepare for what was to come. Rodrigo Johnson entered through the front door as he always did, carrying a briefcase, and looking tired from having driven 3 hours from Pittsburgh. At 45 years old, he was a tall and well-dressed man with hair beginning to grey and a constantly serious expression that softened only in his mother's presence. "Hi, Mom," he said, kissing Ellie's forehead. "How are you?" "Rodrigo, what a surprise. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I decided at the last minute. I had some business to take care of here in the area and thought I'd take the opportunity to visit you," he explained, looking around the room. "Are you all right? The house seems different." Ellie felt the nervousness grow. How to explain to her son that she had taken a street child into her home? "Rodrigo, I need to talk to you about something important." "What happened? Are you sick?" he asked immediately, always fearing for his mother's health. "No, it's not that. It's just that, well, a week ago, I met a very special girl, and she's living here with me." Rodrigo stopped in the middle of the room, processing what he had just heard. "What do you mean, living here? What girl?" "A child who saved me from an assault. She has no family. She was living on the street, and I couldn't just let her go back to that situation." "No, Mom," said Rodrigo, his voice taking on a tone of concern and irritation. "You brought a stranger into the house? A street child? That's very dangerous." "She's not a stranger. She's a 6-year-old girl who needs care," defended Ellie, feeling anger grow at her son's reaction. 6 years old? Mom, you can't just adopt a child like that. There are legal procedures, background checks, social assessments. "I haven't officially adopted her," interrupted Ellie. "I'm just taking care of her until..." "Until what?" "Mom, you're 78 years old. You use a wheelchair. You live alone. How can you adequately care for a child?" In the room, Lily heard every word, feeling her world crumble once again. She knew that tone of voice well. It was the same one that the shelter staff used when they talked about her, as if she were a problem to be solved. "Rodrigo," said Ellie firmly, "this girl saved my life, and more than that, she brought joy back into this house. For a week I have felt more alive than in the last 5 years. Mom, I understand that you feel grateful, but that doesn't mean you need to put your own safety at risk. This child may have psychological problems, she may be violent, she may have learned dangerous behaviors on the street." "Lily is not violent," exploded Ellie. "She's the sweetest and most polite child I've ever met. You're talking about prejudices that have no basis in reality. Lily, you've already given her a name as if she were a pet? That's her name, Rodrigo. And she's not an animal. She's a child who deserves respect." The discussion was getting more heated, and Lily decided she couldn't stay hidden any longer. With tears in her eyes, she came out of the room and appeared in the living room, surprising mother and son. Rodrigo looked at the girl, small, thin, with clothes obviously too new for her, holding an old doll against her chest. Her eyes were big and scared, but there was a dignity in her posture that caught him off guard. "I'm sorry for causing trouble," said Lily in a trembling voice. "I didn't want you to fight because of me." Ellie immediately reached out to the girl. "Come here, my angel. You're not causing any trouble at all." "Yes, I am," insisted Lily, but aloud. Ellie to hug her. "The man is right. I shouldn't be here. I'm going back to the bakery awning." "You're not going anywhere," said Ellie firmly, casting a furious look at Rodrigo. Rodrigo watched the interaction between his mother and the girl, noting the genuineness of the affection between them, but his concern for his mother's safety and well-being spoke louder. "Mum, we need to talk about this calmly," he said, trying to moderate his tone. "There are practical issues that need to be considered." "What issues?" asked Ellie defiantly. "Legal, financial, security issues. Are you using your pension to support this child? What if her parents show up? What if social services find out and consider this kidnapping?" Lily felt like she had been slapped. Kidnapping? Had she let Ellie kidnap her? "I don't want Mrs. Johnson to have problems because of me," she said, breaking away from the hug. "I'm going to leave right now." "You're not going anywhere," said Ellie, holding the girl's hand. "Rodrigo, you're scaring her with this talk about kidnapping and legal problems." "Mom, I'm just being realistic. You can't just ignore the legal consequences of having a minor living here without official authorization." At that moment, Lily made a decision. She couldn't stay any longer and cause problems for the only person who had been kind to her. She let go of Ellie's hand and ran towards the door. "Lily, come back here!" shouted Ellie, trying to follow her with the wheelchair. But Lily had already left through the front door and was running down the street, her tears blurring her vision. Behind her, she could hear Ellie shouting her name and Rodrigo arguing about whether or not to go after her. The girl ran without stopping until she reached the awning of Joe's Corner Bakery, where it had all begun. Old Joe was closing the shop when he saw her arrive, panting and crying. "Lily? Girl, what happened? I thought you were living with Mrs. Johnson." "I was," she sobbed, "but her son doesn't want me to stay. Can I sleep here again?" Old Joe looked at the child with pity, but also with concern. He knew he couldn't officially shelter a minor, but he also didn't have the heart to send her away. "You can stay for tonight," he said gently. "But tomorrow, we're going to have to resolve this situation once and for all." Meanwhile, at Ellie's house, mother and son faced their first major conflict in years. Ellie was furious with Rodrigo, and he was frustrated with what he saw as his mother's irresponsibility. "See what you did?" accused Ellie. "You scared the girl with all this talk about kidnapping and legal problems." "Mom, I'm just trying to protect you. You can't make such important decisions without thinking about the consequences. And you can't show up here after months of not visiting and want to dictate how I should live my life." It was the first time in a long time that mother and son had argued so openly, and both were hurt. Rodrigo realized that he had deeply hurt his mother, but he didn't know how to back down without compromising what he believed was best for her. Night fell on Willow Creek, with a tension that none of those involved knew how to resolve. Ellie slept badly, worried about Lily alone on the street again. Rodrigo spent the night in the guest room, questioning whether he had acted correctly. And Lily, wrapped in an old blanket under the awning, dreamed of the warm room she had left behind and wondered if she would ever feel at home anywhere again. The morning arrived cold and grey over Willow Creek. Lily woke up, huddled under the bakery awning, feeling her body aching from having slept on the hard ground. The blanket that old Joe had given her wasn't enough to protect her from the cold of the early morning, and she shivered as she watched the first people passing by on the street. The week at Ellie's house had made her get used to basic comfort. Again, soft bed, regular food, warm bath. Now back to the reality of the street, everything seemed even more difficult than before. Old Joe arrived early to open the bakery and found Lily sitting against the wall, hugging her knees to her chest. "Good morning, little one," he said gently. "How did you spend the night?" "Cold," she answered honestly. "But it's okay. Come, on in for a bit to warm up. I'll give you a warm roll and a glass of milk." Lily hesitated. She didn't want to abuse the man's kindness, but the cold and hunger spoke louder. She entered the bakery, where the heat from the oven and the aroma of fresh bread enveloped her like a hug. "Lily," said old Joe as he served her the milk, "I need to tell you something. Mrs. Johnson stopped by last night looking for you. She was very worried about you." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "She came looking for me?" "Yes, she did. And she was crying, girl. That lady really loves you." "But her son doesn't want me in the house," murmured Lily. "He thinks I'm going to hurt her." Old Joe sighed. He had known Rodrigo since he was a child, a boy who had always been very serious and controlling. Sometimes adults get scared when they don't understand a situation. It doesn't mean they're bad people. "I don't want to cause problems for Mrs. Johnson. She's very good to me. And you think running away won't cause problems for her?" The woman must be blaming herself, thinking she did something wrong. Lily hadn't thought of that. In her experience, when adults argued because of her, it was always better to disappear. But maybe Mrs. Johnson was different. Meanwhile, at Ellie's house, the atmosphere was heavy. Rodrigo had woken up early and found his mother in the kitchen, with her eyes red and swollen from crying so much. "Mom, did you sleep?" "How could I sleep, knowing that Lily is on the street alone?" "Cold," she replied without looking at him. Rodrigo sat down at the table, feeling the weight of guilt. "Mom, I was just trying to protect you." "Protect me from what, Rodrigo?" "From a 6-year-old child who saved my life. From someone who brought joy into this house for the first time in years. You don't understand the risks." "Don't I?" interrupted Ellie, finally looking at her son. "Rodrigo, 5 years ago I wake up every day wondering what my purpose in life is. Since your father passed away, I just exist. Lily gave me back the will to live." "Mom, you want to know what the real risks are? The risk of me spending the rest of my life in this wheelchair, alone, waiting for the rare visits from my son who is always too busy to really care about me." The words hit Rodrigo like a slap. He knew he didn't visit his mother often, always using work as an excuse. "That's not fair," he protested weakly. "Isn't it? When was the last time you came to see me before yesterday? 3 months ago? 4? Rodrigo lowered his head, knowing that his mother was right. "I have the company to run, and I have a life to live. Lily helps me with the housework, keeps me company, learns to read with me. She made me remember what it's like to take care of someone and be taken care of. But Mom, there are practical issues." "Then help me solve those issues instead of just criticizing," said Ellie firmly. "If you really care about me, help me. Bring Lily back." Rodrigo was silent for a long time. He looked around the kitchen and noticed details that he had missed the night before. Children's drawings glued to the refrigerator, an extra place always set at the table, a small apron hanging next to his mother's. "You've really become attached to her," he said softly, "and she's become attached to me. Rodrigo, this girl has experienced hunger, cold, mistreatment. When she arrived here, she was like a wounded bird. Now she's starting to smile, to trust, to learn. How can I abandon her?" At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Davis, the next-door neighbor. "Ellie, dear, I came to see if everything is all right. I heard you arguing last night." "We're resolving some family problems," explained Ellie, embarrassed. "Is it about little Lily? I saw her running down the street yesterday crying. Poor thing." "You know Lily?" asked Rodrigo, surprised. "Of course. The whole neighborhood knows. Her, a polite girl, always helping your mother with the groceries, and what courage she had last week, saving Mrs. Johnson from those boys." Rodrigo looked at his mother. "What's this story about her saving you?" Ellie then told the whole story of the attempted robbery, of how Lily had put herself in danger to protect her. Rodrigo listened in silence, beginning to see the situation from a different perspective. "The girl could have been hurt," he murmured. "She could have," agreed Ellie, "but she didn't hesitate to help me." "Does that tell you anything about her character?" Mrs. Davis agreed. "She's a special girl, Rodrigo. Your mother is doing a wonderful thing taking care of her." After the neighbor left, Rodrigo was thoughtful. He was beginning to realize that perhaps he had judged the situation hastily. "Mom, where did Lily sleep last night?" "Probably at Joe's bakery. It's where she stayed before coming here." Rodrigo got up from the chair. "I'm going to get her." "You are?" "I am, but I want to talk to her first, get to know her better before making any final decision." Ellie felt a small hope spring up in her chest. "Rodrigo, promise me you'll give her a chance?" "I promise I'll try, Mom, but I also need you to understand my concerns. It's not that I don't trust you, it's that I worry about your safety." "I understand, but trust me when I say that Lily doesn't represent any danger." Rodrigo kissed his mother's forehead and left towards the bakery. He found Lily sitting in a corner, finishing a roll that old Joe had given her. "Lily!" he called, gently. The girl looked up, startled. "Have you come to take me back to the shelter?" "No," said Rodrigo, crouching down to be at her level. "I came to apologize." Lily looked at him suspiciously. "Apologize? Yesterday I said things that scared you. It wasn't my intention to hurt you. But you don't want me to live with Mrs. Johnson." Rodrigo thought carefully before answering. "I worry about my mother. She's elderly, and I'm afraid someone will take advantage of her." "I would never hurt Mrs. Johnson," said Lily sincerely. "She's the kindest person I've ever met." "I'm starting to realize that," admitted Rodrigo. "Lily, would you like to come home? My mother is very worried about you." The girl's eyes lit up. "Does she really want me to come back?" "Yes, she does. In fact, I don't think she'll forgive me if I come back without you." Lily hesitated. "And you? Are you going to try to send me away again?" "I'm going to try to understand the situation better before making any decision," promised Rodrigo. "Will you give me that chance?" For the first time since she had met him, Lily saw gentleness in Rodrigo's eyes. Maybe he wasn't as bad as she had thought. "Okay," she said softly. "But if you decide that I have to leave, can you let me know beforehand, so I can say goodbye properly to Mrs. Johnson?" The maturity of the question touched Rodrigo deeply. "I promise," he said. "Now let's go home. Your Mrs. Johnson is waiting for you." The walk back home was silent, but not uncomfortable. Lily walked beside Rodrigo, observing him discreetly. He was tall and serious, very different from Ellie's natural warmth, but he no longer seemed like the angry man of the night before. "Rodrigo," she said timidly, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why don't you visit Mrs. Johnson more often? She gets sad when she talks about you." The direct question caught Rodrigo off guard. "It's complicated. I work a lot." "But work isn't more important than family, is it?" Rodrigo stopped walking and looked at the 6-year-old girl who had just given him a life lesson. "You're right. Sometimes adults forget what really matters." When they arrived at the house, Ellie was on the porch, obviously waiting. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw Lily safe and sound. "My angel!" she exclaimed, reaching out her arms. Lily ran into the embrace, finally feeling at home again. "Sorry for running away, Mrs. Johnson. I didn't mean to make you worried." "Don't ever do that again," said Ellie, hugging her tight. "I was desperate." Rodrigo watched the scene, noting the genuineness of the affection between them. It was impossible to fake that kind of connection. "How about we go inside?" he suggested. "I think we have a lot to talk about." In the living room, Rodrigo sat down in front of the two, assuming a less defensive posture. "Lily, I want to know your story better. Can you tell me how you and my mother met?" Lily looked at Ellie, who nodded encouragingly. Then, with her childish but clear voice, she told the whole story. The attempted robbery, how she decided to help even though she was much smaller than the teenagers, the invitation for hot chocolate. "Oh, weren't you scared?" asked Rodrigo. "Yes, I was. But Mrs. Johnson looked like a good grandma, and the boys were being mean to her." "And at the shelter, what was life like there?" Lily's face darkened. "It was very bad. The ladies yelled a lot. The food was scarce, and one of them hit us when we did something wrong." "Hit you how?" Lily hesitated, looking at Ellie. "You can tell him, my angel," encouraged the woman. "She hit me with a ruler because I spilled water on the floor. And once she locked me in the dark closet because I cried when I missed Letitia." Rodrigo felt anger rise inside him. "And the other staff didn't do anything. They pretended they didn't see, and when I spoke they said I was lying. That's why you ran away." "Yeah, I thought it was better to go hungry on the street than to get beaten every day." The simplicity of the answer hit Rodrigo like a punch. A 6-year-old child had preferred to live on the street rather than continue being mistreated by those who should protect her. And your sister? Tell me about her. Lily's face lit up a little. Letitia is the nicest person in the world. She always protected me at the shelter, shared her food with me when I ran out, and when I had nightmares, she stayed in my bed until I stopped crying. How were you separated? One day some people came and took her away. They said she was going to a better place, but I never saw her again. It's been a long time. How long? Lily thought, trying to calculate. I think about 2 years. I was still pretty small. Rodrigo did the mental math. Lily was 6 years old, so when she was separated from her sister, she was only 4. It was impossible to imagine how such a small child had survived alone in a hostile environment. Lily, he said gently, do you know your family's last name? Or where you lived before going to the shelter? My full name is Lily Thompson. We lived in a small house with Grandma, but I don't remember where it was exactly. And your parents, do you remember them? The girl's face became sad. They left when I was very little. Grandma said they went to a faraway place and couldn't come back. Ellie and Rodrigo exchanged glances. It was a gentle way to explain death to a small child. How long did Grandma take care of you? I don't remember exactly, but I remember she got sick and had to stay in bed a lot. Then one day she didn't wake up anymore, and some men came who said we had to go to the shelter. Rodrigo felt his heart clench. That child's trajectory was marked by successive losses, parents, grandmother, sister. And even so, she maintained, a sweetness and generosity that impressed him. Rodrigo, said Ellie softly, now you understand why I couldn't let her go back to the street. I understand, he answered sincerely. Lily, can I ask you a question? You can. What do you want most in life? Lily thought carefully before answering. I want to find my sister Letitia, and I want to learn to read properly so that when I find her I can teach her too. What else? I want to have a real family. Not like in the shelter, but like here with Mrs. Johnson, where people are good to each other. Rodrigo looked at his mother, who had tears in her eyes. Lily, if you could choose, where would you like to live? Here, she answered without hesitation. If Mrs. Johnson will let me, and if you don't mind. What if I said I have some conditions? Lily tensed up. What conditions? First, you would have to attend school regularly. Second, you would have to help me take care of my mother when I'm not here. And third, you would have to let me try to find your sister through the correct legal means. Lily's eyes widened. You would look for Letitia for me? Yes, I would. I have some contacts who can help. And can I really stay here? If that's what you want, and if my mother agrees, then yes. Lily looked at Ellie, who was smiling with tears streaming down her face. I agree more than anything in this life, said the woman. Then it's official, said Rodrigo, extending his hand to Lily. Welcome to the family. Lily shook his hand, still not completely believing what was happening. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for taking care of my mother, he replied. That afternoon, Rodrigo made several calls to lawyers specializing in child law, explaining the situation and asking for guidance on how to regularize Lily's guardianship. He also initiated contact with social workers to investigate Letitia's whereabouts. It's going to be a long process, he explained to Ellie and Lily during dinner, but we're going to do everything right, within the law. And in the meantime, asked Ellie, in the meantime, Lily stays here. I'm going to hire a nanny to help you during the week, and I intend to come more often to follow the process. A nanny? Protested Ellie. I don't need a nanny. It's not for you, it's to help with both of you, explained Rodrigo with a smile. A 6-year-old child is a lot of work. I behave well, defended Lily. I'm sure you do, but my mother also needs help with the housework, and you need someone who can take you to school and to medical appointments. It was the first time that someone had planned a concrete future for Lily. The girl listened to everything fascinated, barely able to believe that adults were organizing her life in a caring and responsible way. "Rodrigo," she said timidly, "can I call you uncle?" "Of course you can," he replied, surprised at how the question made him happy. That night, when Lily was already sleeping, Ellie and Rodrigo talked in the living room. "Thank you for giving her a chance," said Ellie. "Thank you for opening my eyes," replied Rodrigo. "I was so focused on the risks that I couldn't see the benefits. Lily really brought life to this house. And to me," added Ellie. "I haven't felt so useful in a long time. Mom, I need to apologize for something more important." "What?" "For staying away for so long. Lily was right when she said that work isn't more important than family. Rodrigo, I promise that's going to change. I'm going to come more often. I'm going to get more involved in your life. And we're going to give Lily the family she deserves." It was the beginning of a new phase for all of them, but none imagined the challenges that were still to come. 2 weeks had passed since Rodrigo had accepted Lily into the family. The house routine had adjusted to include the new responsibilities. Lily attended the local school in the morning, helped Ellie in the afternoon with reading lessons, and eagerly awaited Rodrigo's visits on the weekends. Mariana, the caregiver that Rodrigo had hired, arrived every morning to help with household chores and accompany Lily to school. She was a 35-year-old woman, mother of 2 children, who quickly became fond of the girl. "Lily is a special child," she commented to Ellie one morning. "I've never seen such a polite and helpful girl." "It's true," agreed Ellie, watching. "Lily organized her school supplies. Sometimes I forget that she's only 6 years old." At school, Lily faced some challenges. She was a little behind compared to the other children of her age, especially in reading and basic math. But her teacher, Mrs. Carter, was patient and dedicated. "Lily has an impressive thirst for learning," reported Mrs. Carter to Ellie during a meeting. "She absorbs everything like a sponge. In a few weeks, she's already managed to keep up with the class." "She studies a lot at home too," said Ellie proudly. "She spends hours doing homework and reading recipes with me." It was Friday when Rodrigo arrived with important news. Lily ran to hug him as soon as she saw him at the door, a ritual that had been established quickly. "Uncle Rodrigo, how was work this week?" "It was good, little one, and how was school?" "I learned to write words with TH, and Mrs. Carter said my handwriting is getting pretty." "I'm so proud," he said, affectionately ruffling her hair. "I have important news to tell you." In the living room, with Lily sitting between him and Ellie, Rodrigo opened a folder of documents. "I've made some progress in the search for Letitia," he announced. Lily's eyes widened. "Did you find my sister?" "I haven't found her yet, but I found out where she went when she left the shelter in Willow Creek." Lily held Ellie's hand tightly, her heart beating fast. "Letitia was transferred to a shelter in Harmony Falls, about 50 miles from here, but that was 2 years ago." "And is she still there?" asked Lily anxiously. "I don't know yet. My lawyer is investigating. The problem is that at age 12, some children are transferred again or even adopted." The word adopted made Lily's stomach churn. What if Letitia had found a family and forgotten about her? "If she was adopted, will I never see her again?" she asked in a small voice. "Not necessarily," reassured Rodrigo. "Even if she was adopted, we can try to contact her. Many families allow siblings to reunite." "But what if she doesn't want to see me?" Ellie hugged Lily. "My dear, your sister loves you. I'm sure of that. Siblings never forget each other." "Lily," said Rodrigo gently, "I'm going to travel to Harmony Falls next week to investigate personally. Do you want to go with me?" "Can I really go?" "Of course. I think you have the right to participate in this search." That night, Lily could barely sleep with anxiety. For 2 years she had dreamed of reuniting with Letitia, and now it seemed that she was closer to becoming a reality. On the following Monday, Rodrigo came to pick up Lily very early. Ellie had prepared a backpack with snacks and some drawings that Lily wanted to show her sister. "Take good care of yourselves," said Ellie, kissing Lily's forehead. "And bring good news." The trip to Harmony Falls lasted a little over an hour. Lily was glued to the car window, observing the landscape and wondering if Letitia was seeing the same mountains and farms. "Uncle Rodrigo," she said during the trip, "what if Letitia doesn't recognize me? I've changed a lot since we were little." "Siblings always recognize each other," he assured. "Besides, you have the same big eyes and the same sweet smile." The shelter in Harmony Falls was larger than the one in Willow Creek, but had the same cold and institutional atmosphere. The director, Ms. Jenkins, received them in her office. "I came to investigate the whereabouts of a child who was transferred here about 2 years ago," explained Rodrigo. "Letitia Thompson, sister of this girl here." Ms. Jenkins looked at Lily with interest. "Letitia Thompson? Yes, I remember her. A problematic girl, very rebellious." "Problematic how?" asked Rodrigo. "She fought with the other children, disobeyed the rules, had tantrums. She gave our team a lot of work." Lily felt a sting in her heart. That didn't seem like the gentle and protective Letitia she remembered. "And where is she now?" asked Rodrigo. "She was transferred again about a year ago, to a shelter in Lakeside. Apparently it was the last resort before more extreme measures." "What kind of measures?" "Institutions for adolescents with behavioral problems," explained Ms. Jenkins vaguely. "Can I see her file?" asked Rodrigo. "Only with a court order, but I can tell you that she always asked about a younger sister. She talked a lot about a Yasmin." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "She asked about me?" "Yes, she did. It was the only thing that calmed her down during crises, talking about you." Rodrigo noted all the information about the shelter in Lakeside and thanked her for her cooperation. When they left, Lily was visibly shaken. "She was suffering," said the girl, "in the car. That's why she got angry and rebellious. She must have thought I had forgotten about her." "Lily, people react differently to suffering. You became more withdrawn. Your sister became more aggressive. It doesn't mean she stopped loving you." "But what if she doesn't want to be my sister anymore? What if she thinks I abandoned her?" "She won't think that. When you reunite, everything will make sense to her." The trip back was quieter. Lily processed everything she had discovered, mixing hope with concern. At home, Ellie waited anxiously for news. "So?" she asked, as soon as they arrived. "We found out that Letitia was transferred again," explained Rodrigo, "to a shelter in Lakeside. We're going to continue investigating." "And how was she?" asked Ellie, noting Lily's worried expression. "She was difficult," replied Lily softly. "People said she fought a lot and was rebellious." "My dear," said Ellie gently, "when we're away from those we love for too long, sometimes our sadness turns into anger. Your sister was probably like that because she missed you." "Do you think so?" "I'm sure of it. And now that we know where she might be, we're going to keep looking until we find her." That night during dinner, Rodrigo made a proposal. "Lily, how about, while we look for Letitia, we start the legal procedures for your official adoption?" "Adoption?" she repeated, surprised. "Yes, so that you officially become part of this family, even if we find your sister." "But if I'm adopted, will I still be able to stay with Letitia when we find her?" "If she wants to, we'll find a way," promised Rodrigo. "Our family will always have room for her too." Lily looked at Ellie, who was smiling with tears in her eyes. "Do you really want to adopt me?" "More than anything," replied Ellie. "You're already our daughter at heart. Now we want you to be legally too. What if Letitia doesn't approve?" "Your sister will approve," said Rodrigo confidently. She'll be happy to know that you found a family that loves you." That night, Lily slept with contradictory feelings. On the one hand, she was thrilled with the possibility of officially becoming part of Ellie and Rodrigo's family. On the other hand, she felt guilty for being happy while Letitia was still lost somewhere. But one thing was certain. For the first time in her life, she had people who would fight for her and who wouldn't give up until her family was complete. And that gave her a strength she didn't know she possessed. A month had passed since the trip to Harmony Falls, and things at Ellie's house followed an increasingly harmonious routine. Lily was excelling at school and had made her first friend, Julia, a shy girl who sat next to her in the classroom. "Mrs. Johnson," said Lily one afternoon, arriving from school all excited, "can I invite Julia to play here tomorrow?" "Of course you can, my angel. I'll make some special cookies for you." Girls. It was the first time that Lily had asked to bring a friend home, and Ellie was thrilled, seeing how the girl was developing socially. "Julia doesn't have a mum and dad either," Lily confided. "She lives with her aunt. I think that's why we understood each other. Sometimes people who have gone through hardships recognize each other," observed Ellie wisely. That Friday, Rodrigo arrived with a different expression. Lily, who had learned to read his emotions, noticed immediately. "Uncle Rodrigo, did something bad happen?" "It's not bad, but it's important news," he said, sitting down in the living room. "I managed to locate Letitia." Lily's heart almost stopped. "Where is she?" "She's still at the shelter in Lakeside," but he hesitated. "But what?" pressed Ellie. "She's going through a very difficult time. The behavioral problems have worsened, and she's being followed by psychologists." "What kind of problems?" asked Lily, worried. "She isolates herself a lot, doesn't talk to anyone, and sometimes has episodes of intense anger. The director said that she only talks about you during the consultations with the psychologist." "She talks about me?" "Yes, she does. Apparently, she blames herself for leaving you alone in the other shelter." Tears began to stream down Lily's face. "She thinks it was her fault?" "It seems so, and that's causing a lot of suffering for her." "I need to go there," said Lily, determined. "I need to talk to her, explain that it wasn't her fault." "Lily," said Rodrigo gently, "it's not that simple. Leticia is very emotionally fragile. A poorly planned reunion can worsen the situation." "Then what do we do?" "First, I'm going to talk to the psychologist who takes care of her, explain the situation, and ask what's the best way to approach this. What if she doesn't want to see me?" "My dear," said Ellie, hugging Lily, "your sister loves you. The problem is that her heart is very hurt, but your love will overcome this." The following week, Rodrigo traveled alone to Lakeside to talk to the shelter staff. When he returned, he had a plan. The psychologist, Dr. Miller, believes that the reunion may be beneficial for Letitia, he explained, but it has to be done gradually. "How so?" asked Lily. "First, she's going to tell Letitia that you're okay and that you're looking for her. Then, if Letitia agrees, we'll send a letter from you to her." "A letter?" "Yes, so that she can process the information in her own time without pressure." Lily was nervous. "But I don't know how to write very well yet." "I'll help you," offered Ellie. "You say what you want to say, and I'll help you put it on paper." That night, Lily and Ellie sat at the kitchen table with paper and pen. The girl spent a long time thinking about what to say. "Where do I start?" she asked. "Start by saying how you feel," suggested Ellie. "Letitia," began Lily, and Ellie wrote, "I miss you so much every day. I wanted you to know that it wasn't your fault that we were separated. You always took such good care of me." Ellie wrote carefully, trying to keep the words simple but full of emotion. "Now I live with a very good grandma named Mrs. Johnson and an uncle named Rodrigo. They take very good care of me and make me remember how you protected me. What else do you want to say? Asked Ellie. That I learned to read, said Lily excitedly, and that I kept all the stories she told me, and that if she wants to, she can come live with us too. Are you sure about that? Asked Ellie. I am. Our family has room for one more person, doesn't it? Ellie smiled, touched by the girl's generosity. It does, my angel. The letter was ready after several revisions. Lily made sure to sign her own name, even if the letters were a little crooked. 2 weeks later, Rodrigo brought the answer. Lily was at school when he arrived, so he talked to Ellie first. So? She asked anxiously. Letitia received the letter well. In fact, it was the first time in months that she showed any positive emotion. That's good. She wrote a response to Lily and asked to see a picture of her. A picture? She wants to be sure that Lily is okay, that she's not lying about being happy. Ellie understood perfectly. Letitia, after so many disappointments, needed concrete proof that her sister was really safe and happy. When Lily arrived from school, Rodrigo gave her Letitia's letter. It was written in teenage handwriting, a little uneven with emotion. Lily, she read aloud, I can't believe you're okay. All these years I thought I had failed you. I'm glad you found good people. I also really want to see you, but I'm afraid to disappoint you. I'm not the sister you remember. I got very angry and sad after we were separated. Lily stopped reading with tears in her eyes. She thinks I'm going to be disappointed in her? Keep reading, encouraged Ellie. If you really want to see me, I accept. But I want you to know that maybe I'm not the Letitia who protected you anymore. Sometimes I get very sad and angry for no reason. I love you forever, your sister Leticia. Poor sister, whispered Lily. She's suffering so much. That's why we need to be patient, said Rodrigo. The reunion will happen, but in her time. When can I go see her? The psychologist suggested in 2 weeks, but it will be a short visit, just for you to see each other and talk a little. And then? Then we'll see how she reacts. If it goes well, we can plan longer visits. What? If she wants to come live with us? Then we'll have to see the legal issues, explained Rodrigo. Letitia is already 14 years old, so her opinion counts a lot, but we also need to ensure that she has the psychological support she needs. That night, Lily couldn't sleep with anxiety. In 2 weeks, she would see her sister for the first time in over 2 years. She didn't know what to expect, but one thing was certain. No matter how Letitia was, she was still her sister and always would be. In the next room, Ellie was also awake, thinking about how her life had changed. She had started by taking care of one child, and now she was preparing to possibly welcome 2. But her heart had plenty of room for all the love that was needed. Rodrigo, in his apartment in Pittsburgh, worked late organizing all the legal documents. He knew that the coming months would be challenging, but he was also determined to give the 2 sisters the chance to be happy together. After all, that's what family was. People who chose to stay together and fight for each other, no matter what the obstacles. The day of the reunion dawned cloudy in Willow Creek. Lily had woken up several times during the night, anxious and nervous. Ellie found her in the kitchen very early, still in her pajamas, trying to have breakfast but barely managing to eat. My angel, you need to eat, said Ellie gently. It's going to be a long day. My stomach is churning, confessed Lily. What if Letitia doesn't like me anymore? What if she thinks I've changed too much? Lily, you're sisters. That never changes, no matter how much time passes. Rodrigo arrived punctually at 9 in the morning, finding Lily ready but visibly nervous. She had chosen her prettiest dress and asked Ellie to make 2 braids in her hair, the way Letitia liked when they were little. You look beautiful, he said, trying to reassure her. Letitia will be proud to see how you've grown. The trip to Lakeside passed in tense silence. Lily looked out the window, creating 1,000 different scenarios. In her head, Rodrigo was also nervous. He knew that this meeting could either heal or further traumatize the two girls. The shelter in Lakeside was larger and more organized than the others they had visited. The director, Ms. Davis, received them personally. "Letitia is very anxious," she explained as she led them to a reserved room. "She barely slept last night, and this morning she was fixing her hair several times." "How is she emotionally?" asked Rodrigo. "Better since she received Lily's letter. For the first time in months, she showed some interest in something. She even asked for help writing the answer." The meeting room was simple but welcoming, with some chairs and a low table. Lily sat on the edge of the chair, her hands sweating with nervousness. "Remember," said Miss Davis, "the meeting will be supervised by Dr. Stevens, our psychologist. If Letitia gets too emotional, we'll have to stop it." A few minutes later, the door opened, and Letitia entered slowly. Lily almost didn't recognize her. The 12-year-old girl that she kept in her memory was now a 14-year-old teenager, taller and thinner, with long hair and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. "Lily," whispered Letitia, stopping at the door. "Letitia!" Lily got up from the chair but hesitated, not knowing whether to run to hug her sister. The two looked at each other for a moment that seemed like an eternity. Letitia examined every detail of Lily's face, as if she were checking if it was real. "You've grown so much," said Letitia finally, her voice choked. "And you're beautiful. You look healthy." "You've grown too," replied Lily timidly. "You're so tall." Letitia approached slowly and sat in the chair in front of her sister. Rodrigo watched everything from a corner, touched by the scene. "Is it true that you live with good people?" asked Letitia. "It's true. Mrs. Johnson is like a grandma to me, and Uncle Rodrigo takes care of both of us." "And they treat you well? They don't yell, they don't hit?" "Never," assured Lily. "They taught me to read, bought me new clothes, and I even have a friend at school." Letitia closed her eyes, relieved. "During all these years, I thought you were suffering because of me." "It wasn't your fault," said Lily firmly. "You always took care of me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have survived in the first shelter. But I should have protected you better. I should have prevented them from separating us." "Letitia, you were only 12 years old. How could you have prevented it?" Tears began to stream down Letitia's face. "You don't understand. After they took you, I got very angry. I fought with everyone, broke things, yelled at the ladies. I thought if I made enough trouble, they were going to take me to where you were. And they didn't. No, they sent me to another place and then another and another. And with each place I got angrier, more rebellious, until I stopped trying." Lily got up and approached her sister. "Can I give you a hug?" Letitia hesitated for a moment, then opened her arms. The hug was long and full of tears. 2 years of longing, fear, and pent-up love manifesting at once. "I missed you so much," sobbed Lily. "Me too. Every day." "Letitia," said Lily when they separated, "do you want to meet my new family? They said our family has room for you too." They really said that. They did. Mrs. Johnson always says that a house that has room for one child has room for two. Letitia looked at Rodrigo for the first time since she had entered the room. "Are you Uncle Rodrigo?" "I am," he replied gently. "Lily talks about you a lot." "And you would really let me live with you?" "If that's what you want, yes. But you need to know that we would have some conditions." "What conditions?" "You would have to continue doing psychological counseling, attend school regularly, and follow the house rules." "What if I have a crisis? If I get angry and break something?" "Then we're going to talk and try to understand what made you angry," replied Rodrigo simply. Letitia seemed surprised by the answer. "You wouldn't punish me?" "Would punishment solve anything? It never has," she admitted. "Then why would we use it?" For the first time in a long time, Letitia smiled. "Lily, you were lucky to find this family. It wasn't luck, corrected Lily. It was because I saved Mrs. Johnson from some bad boys and she took me home. You saved her. I did. Some teenagers wanted to steal her purse and I screamed and it called for help. Letitia looked at her sister with pride. I always knew you were brave. I learned from you. You always defended me at the shelter. The conversation continued for another hour, with the sisters sharing experiences from the past 2 years. Letitia told about the difficulties she faced, and Lily talked about her new life in Willow Creek. I would really like to go with you, said Letitia finally. But I'm afraid to ruin everything. Sometimes I can't control my anger. No one perfectly controls their emotions, said Rodrigo. The important thing is to try and accept help when you need it. And you would have patience with me. All the patience in the world, promised Lily. We're sisters. Sisters don't give up on each other. At the end of the visit, it was decided that Letitia would make a weekend visit to Ellie's house before making a final decision. She wanted to get to know the family better and see if she could really adapt. Everything's going to be all right, said Lily when it was time to say goodbye. Mrs. Johnson will love you as much as she loves me. What if she doesn't like me? Impossible. She has a lot of love stored in her heart. During the trip back, Lily was radiant. Uncle Rodrigo, when can Letitia come visit us? Next week. But Lily, we need to be prepared for the possibility that the adaptation may not be easy. I know, but my sister is strong. She just needs to remember that she is loved. When they arrived home, Ellie was anxious for news. So, how was it? Mrs. Johnson, said Lily excitedly, my sister wants to meet you. She's coming to visit us next week. That's wonderful, exclaimed Ellie. I'm going to prepare everything to welcome her properly. That night, Lily slept more peacefully than she had slept in a long time. Her sister was alive, she was well, and soon they would be together again. There were still challenges ahead, but for the first time in years, she could glimpse a future where her family would be complete. In Lakeside, Letitia also slept better. For the first time in a long time, she had hoped that maybe she could have a normal life, with people who would love her despite her difficulties. And more importantly, she would finally reunite with her little sister, the only person in the world who had always believed in her. The week flew by at Ellie's house. Lily was so anxious for Letitia's visit that she could barely concentrate on school. Ellie, in turn, prepared as if she were receiving a queen. She cleaned the whole house, prepared the guest room with new sheets, and planned a special menu for the weekend. Mrs. Johnson, do you think Letitia will like the food? Asked Lily for the 10th time that Friday morning. I'm sure she will, my angel. I made fudge brownies, cornbread, and I'm going to prepare that chicken pot pie that you like so much. What if she doesn't like sleeping in the room alone? At the shelter, she always shared a room with other girls. If she wants, she can sleep in your room. I can put an extra mattress. Lily smiled with relief. Ellie always had a solution for everything. Rodrigo arrived in the early afternoon with Letitia. The teenager was visibly nervous, carrying a small backpack with her few belongings. Her eyes scanned the house and the garden cautiously, as if she were assessing whether that place was safe. Letitia! Shouted Lily, running to hug her sister. Hey, little one! Said Letitia, returning the hug, but still tense. Ellie approached, in her wheelchair, with a warm smile on her face. You must be Letitia. Lily talks about you so much that I feel like I already know you. Letitia looked at the elderly woman, noting the genuine kindness in her eyes. Thank you for taking care of my sister, Mrs. Johnson, but you can call me Grandma Ellie like Lily does. Can I really? Of course you can, my dear. Now come on, I'll show you the house. The tour of the house was revealing for Letitia. Everything was simple but clean and organized. There were family photographs on the walls, well cared for plants, and an atmosphere of peace that she hadn't felt in a long time. In Lily's room, she saw her sister's drawings glued to the wall and the children's storybooks on the shelf. "You really learn to read?" she asked Lily. "I do. Grandma Ellie teaches me with her recipes. Do you want to see?" Lily proudly showed her calligraphy notebook and read some sentences aloud. Letitia was touched, seeing how her sister had progressed. "At the shelter you barely knew the letters," she commented. "Grandma Ellie is a very good teacher. She said that when you come to live here, you can help me teach you too." "Letitia," said Ellie, "Lily told me that you're very smart. Would you be willing to go back to school?" "I haven't attended school properly for a long time," admitted Letitia. "At the shelters, the classes were very basic." "That's okay. We can start slowly, and you go at your own pace." During dinner, Letitia attentively observed the family dynamic. She saw how Lily helped Ellie naturally, how they talked about their day at school, how they laughed together at small things. It was a normality that she had forgotten existed. "Letitia," said Rodrigo, "how do you feel about school?" "I've always liked studying," she responded hesitantly, "but after I was separated from Lily, I stopped caring about anything. And now, maybe I can try again. And about doing therapy. I know it's been difficult for you." Letitia tensed up. "Are you going to force me to go to the psychologist?" "No one is going to force you to do anything," said Ellie calmly, "but sometimes talking to someone who understands can help." At the shelter, they took me by force. The psychologist kept asking questions that made me even angrier. "Here it would be different," explained Rodrigo. "You would choose the professional, and you would only continue if you felt comfortable." Letitia thought for a moment. "What if I have a crisis here? If I break something without wanting to?" "Then we'll talk about what made you like that," said Ellie simply, "and we'll find a way to help you calm down." "You're not going to send me away?" "My dear, family doesn't send family away. We may need time to understand how to help you better, but giving up, never." That night, Letitia chose to sleep in Lily's room. The two sisters talked until late, sharing memories of the time with their grandmother and making plans for the future. "Lily," said Letitia in the dark, "you're very lucky to have found this family." "No, we're lucky, because now you're part of it too. But what if I can't be a good daughter to them? What if I disappoint everyone? Letitia, you took care of me when I was little, and you were a child too. If that's not being good, I don't know what is." On Saturday morning, Ellie woke up early and found Letitia in the kitchen, looking out the window. "Good morning, dear. Did you sleep well?" "I did. It's been a while since I slept through the whole night." "Do you want to help me with breakfast?" Letitia hesitated. "I don't know how to cook very well." "I'll teach you. That's how I learned with Lily too." While they prepared scones and warmed milk, Ellie observed that Letitia was careful and attentive, but clearly not used to affection or praise. "You have skillful hands," commented Ellie when Letitia managed to make the scones perfectly round. Letitia blushed. "Thank you." "Letitia, can I ask you something?" "You can. What scares you the most about the idea of coming to live with us?" The direct question caught Letitia off guard. She stopped kneading the dough and was thoughtful. "I'm afraid of not being able to be normal," she said finally. "Sometimes I get very sad or very angry for no reason, and when that happens, I can't stop." "And you think that would scare us?" "It's scared everyone so far." "My dear, everyone has difficult moments. The difference is that here you're not going to face them alone." "But what if I hurt Lily? What if I say bad things to her when I'm angry?" "Then we're going to talk about it. You're going to apologize, and we're going to find ways to prevent it from happening again." Is that how families work? Real families. Yes, on Sunday it was time for Letitia to return to the shelter. She was visibly reluctant to leave. "Can I come back?" she asked Ellie. "Dear, you can come live here whenever you want. You just need to be sure that that's what you want." "I want to," said Letitia, without hesitating. "For the first time in a long time, I want something." "Then let's start the legal procedures," said Rodrigo. "It may take a few weeks, but we're going to do everything right. And in the meantime, you can come visit us every weekend," offered Ellie. Lily hugged her sister tightly before she left. Soon, you'll be living here forever." "Promise you won't get tired of me?" asked Letitia. "Never. We're sisters forever." After Letitia left, the house was quieter, but not sad. There was a sense of hope in the air. "Grandma Ellie," said Lily, "Letitia is going to be happy here, isn't she?" "She will, my angel. It may take some time, but she will. Love has the power to heal." "And do you like her?" "I adore her. She's a brave and intelligent girl. She just needs to learn to trust again." That night, Rodrigo called to give news. "Mom, I talked to the social worker at the shelter. If everything goes well, Letitia can come live with you permanently next month." "That's wonderful!" exclaimed Ellie. "But there's one condition. She'll have to do regular psychological counseling." "No problem. In fact, I think it would be good for her. And we'll need to hire someone to help you during the week. 2 teenagers are going to be more work. Rodrigo, it's going to be the best work of my life." Lily fell asleep that night, dreaming of the day her sister would arrive to stay. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Letitia had deep wounds that would take time to heal. But she also knew that love and patience could heal almost everything. And for the first time in a long time, she felt that her family would really be complete. A month later, Letitia arrived to stay. This time, she brought 2 suitcases instead of a backpack, and in her eyes there was a mixture of hope and nervousness that Ellie recognized immediately. "Welcome home," said Lily, hugging her sister at the front door. "Home," repeated Letitia, as if she were testing how the words sounded. It still seems strange to say that. "You'll get used to it," assured Ellie, radiant with happiness. The first days were of careful adaptation. Letitia observed everything attentively, still expecting something to go wrong. She helped with household chores with excessive dedication, as if she wanted to prove that she deserved to be there. "Letitia," said Ellie one morning, finding the girl washing dishes at 6 in the morning, "you don't have to do all this." "I want to help," responded Letitia quickly. "I don't want to be a burden." "My dear, you're not a burden. You're part of the family." But old habits were hard to break. Letitia had spent years in institutions where she had to earn any kindness, and the idea of unconditional love was still difficult to accept. The first crisis came in the second week. Letitia was trying to help Lily with her math homework when she got frustrated for not being able to solve a simple problem. "I don't even know this," she exploded, throwing the pencil away. "How am I going to be able to go back to school if I don't even know children's math?" "Letitia, calm down," tried Lily, scared by her sister's sudden change of mood. "Don't tell me to calm down. You don't understand. I'm dumb. I'm not good for anything." Letitia got up abruptly from the table, knocking over a chair in the process. Ellie appeared in the room, attracted by the noise. "What happened here?" "I ruined everything," said Letitia, tears beginning to stream down. "You're going to see that I'm no good, and you're going to send me away." "No one is going to send you away because of math," said Ellie calmly. "But I broke the chair." "Chairs can be fixed. People can't." Ellie approached the girl slowly, who was leaning against the wall, trembling. "Letitia, do you want to tell me what's really making you like this?" I'm afraid of not being able to keep up at school, of being the oldest and most behind in the class. And why would that be a problem? Because everyone is going to laugh at me. They're going to say that I'm the shelter girl who doesn't know anything. Ellie understood immediately. It wasn't about math, it was about shame, about not feeling good enough. "My dear, sit here with me," she said, indicating the sofa. "I want to tell you something." Letitia hesitated, but sat down. "When I was young, I stopped studying in 5th grade to work and help my family. I only went back to learning to read properly when I was a married adult." "Really? Really? And you know what I discovered? It's never too late to learn, and it doesn't matter what others think. What matters is what you want for yourself." "But what if I really can't do it?" "Then we're going to find a different way for you to learn." "There are many ways to be intelligent, Letitia." Lily, who had been quietly watching, approached her sister. "Letitia, remember when you taught me how to tie my shoe at the shelter? You were very patient with me." "I remember." "Then you know how to be a teacher, and if you know how to teach, you also know how to learn." That afternoon, Ellie called Rodrigo, telling about the episode. "How is she now?" he asked, worried. "Better. We talked a lot, and she understood that she doesn't have to be perfect to be loved." "What about school?" "I'm going to talk to the principal to see if we can do a gradual adaptation period. Maybe start with half a day until she feels more confident." "Good idea. And about therapy?" "I scheduled a consultation for next week. I found a psychologist who works specifically with trauma from abandonment." The following week, Letitia began sessions with Dr. Green, a young and empathetic psychologist who had a different approach than the professionals she had met before. "How do you feel living with your new family?" asked Dr. Green during the first session. "Good, but also scared," responded Letitia honestly. "Scared of what?" "That they'll find out that I'm not a good person." "What makes you think that you're not a good person?" Letitia was quiet for a long time. "Because if I were good, my parents wouldn't have left, and if I were good, I would have managed to protect my sister better." It was the first time that Letitia had verbalized these feelings, and it hurt more than she expected. "Letitia, you were 12 years old when you were separated from Lily. What responsibilities do you think a 12-year-old child should have?" "I was the older sister." "Even so, you were a child. The decisions about where you would live weren't yours to make." During the following weeks, the sessions with Dr. Green helped Letitia understand that many of her fears and angers came from a guilt that wasn't hers to carry. At home, she began to let go more. She helped Ellie in the kitchen, played with Lily in the garden, and even started calling Ellie Grandma naturally. "Grandma Ellie," she said one day, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, my dear. Why are you never angry with me, even when I mess up?" "Because being angry doesn't solve anything, and because I understand that you're still learning to trust." At the shelter, when the children did something wrong, the ladies got furious. "Letitia, anger is a normal feeling, but the way we deal with it is what makes the difference. What if one day you get angry with me? If that happens, we're going to talk about what made me like that, and then we'll solve it together. Promise?" "I promise." School started in March, and Letitia faced her fears with more courage than she expected. "Mrs. Johnson," said Lily excitedly, "my sister wants to meet you. She's coming to visit us next week." "That's wonderful," exclaimed Ellie. "I'm going to prepare everything to receive her properly." That night, Lily slept more peacefully than she had slept in a long time. Her sister was alive, she was well, and soon they would be together again. There were still challenges ahead, but for the first time in years, she could glimpse a future where her family would be complete. In Lakeside, Letitia also slept better. For the first time in a long time, she had hope that maybe she could have a normal life with people who would love her despite her difficulties. And more importantly, she would finally reunite with her little sister, the only person in the world who had always believed in her. The week flew by at Ellie's house. Lily was so anxious for Letitia's visit that she could barely concentrate on school. Ellie, in turn, prepared as if she were receiving a queen. She cleaned the whole house, prepared the guest room with new sheets, and planned a special menu for the weekend. "Mrs. Johnson, do you think Letitia will like the food?" asked Lily for the 10th time that Friday morning. "I'm sure she will, my angel. I made fudge brownies, cornbread, and I'm going to prepare that chicken pot pie that you like so much. What if she doesn't like sleeping in the room alone? At the shelter, she always shared a room with other girls. If she wants, she can sleep in your room. I can put an extra mattress." Lily smiled with relief. Ellie always had a solution for everything. Rodrigo arrived in the early afternoon with Letitia. The teenager was visibly nervous, carrying a small backpack with her few belongings. Her eyes scanned the house and the garden cautiously, as if she were assessing whether that place was safe. "Letitia!" shouted Lily, running to hug her sister. "Hey, little one," said Letitia, returning the hug, but still tense. Ellie approached, in her wheelchair with a warm smile on her face. "You must be Letitia. Lily talks about you so much that I feel like I already know you." Letitia looked at the elderly woman, noting the genuine kindness in her eyes. "Thank you for taking care of my sister, Grandma." "Ellie, honey, call me Grandma Ellie, like Lily does." May I really?" "Of course, my dear. Now come on, I'll show you the house." The tour of the house was revealing for Letitia. Everything was simple but clean and organized. There were family photographs on the walls, well cared for, plants, and an atmosphere of peace that she hadn't felt in a long time. In Lily's room, she saw her sister's drawings glued to the wall and the children's storybooks on the shelf. "You really learned to read?" she asked Lily. "I do. Grandma Ellie teaches me with her recipes. Do you want to see?" Lily proudly showed her calligraphy notebook and read some sentences aloud. Letitia was touched, seeing how her sister had progressed. "At the shelter you barely knew the letters," she commented. "Grandma Ellie is a very good teacher. She said that when you come to live here you can help me teach you too." "Letitia," said Ellie, "Lily told me that you're very smart. Would you be willing to go back to school?" "I haven't attended school properly for a long time," admitted Letitia. "At the shelters, the classes were very basic." "That's okay. We can start slowly, and you go at your own pace." During dinner, Letitia attentively observed the family dynamic. She saw how Lily helped Ellie naturally, how they talked about their day at school, how they laughed together at small things. It was a normality that she had forgotten existed. "Leticia," said Rodrigo, "how do you feel about school?" "I've always liked studying," she responded hesitantly, "but after I was separated from Lily, I stopped caring about anything." "And now?" "Now, maybe I can try again." "And about doing therapy?" "I know it's been difficult for you." Letitia tensed up. "Are you going to force me to go to the therapist?" "No one is going to force you to do anything," said Ellie calmly. "But sometimes talking to someone who understands can help." At the shelter they took me by force. The therapist kept asking questions that made me even angrier. "Here it would be different," explained Rodrigo. "You would choose the professional, and you would only continue if you felt comfortable." Letitia thought for a moment. "What if I have a crisis here? If I break something without wanting to? Then we'll talk about what made you like that," said Ellie simply, "and we'll find a way to help you calm down." "You're not going to send me away?" "Honey, family doesn't send family away. We may need time to understand how to help you better, but giving up, never." That night, Letitia chose to sleep in Lily's room. The two sisters talked until late, sharing memories of the time with their grandmother and making plans for the future. "Lily," said Letitia in the dark, "you're very lucky to have found this family." "No, we're lucky, because now you're part of it too. But what if I can't be a good daughter to them? What if I disappoint everyone? Letitia, you took care of me when I was little, and you were a child too. If that's not being good, I don't know what is. On Saturday morning, Ellie woke up early and found Letitia in the kitchen looking out the window. "Good morning, dear. Did you sleep well?" "I did. It's been a while since I slept through the whole night. Do you want to help me with breakfast?" Letitia hesitated. "I don't know how to cook very well. I'll teach you. That's how I learned with Lily, too." While they prepared muffins and warmed milk, Ellie observed that Letitia was careful and attentive, but clearly not used to affection or praise. "You have skillful hands," commented Ellie when Letitia managed to make the muffins perfectly round. Letitia blushed. "Thank you." "Letitia, can I ask you something?" "You can. What scares you the most about the idea of coming to live with us?" The direct question caught Letitia off guard. She stopped kneading the dough and was thoughtful. "I'm afraid of not being able to be normal," she said finally. "Sometimes I get very sad or very angry for no reason, and when that happens, I can't stop. And you think that would scare us? It's scared everyone so far. Honey, everyone has difficult moments. The difference is that here you're not going to face them alone. But what if I hurt Lily? What if I say bad things to her when I'm angry? Then we're going to talk about it. You're going to apologize, and we're going to find ways to prevent it from happening again." Is that how families work? Real families. Yes. On Sunday, it was time for Letitia to return to the shelter. She was visibly reluctant to leave. "Can I come back?" she asked Ellie. "Honey, you can come live here whenever you want. You just need to be sure that that's what you want." "I want to," said Letitia without hesitating. "For the first time in a long time, I want something." "Then let's start the legal procedures," said Rodrigo. "It may take a few weeks, but we're going to do everything right. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you can come visit us every weekend," offered Ellie. Lily hugged her sister tightly before she left. Soon you'll be living here forever." "Promise you won't get tired of me?" asked Letitia. "Never. We're sisters forever." After Letitia left, the house was quieter but not sad. There was a sense of hope in the air. "Grandma Ellie," said Lily, "Letitia is going to be happy here, isn't she?" "She will, honey. It may take some time, but she will. Love has the power to heal." "And do you like her?" "I adore her. She's a brave and intelligent girl. She just needs to learn to trust again." That night, Rodrigo called to give news. "Mom, I talked to the social worker at the shelter. If everything goes well, Letitia can come live with you permanently next month." "That's wonderful," exclaimed Ellie. "But there's one condition. She'll have to do regular psychological counseling." "No problem. In fact, I think it would be good for her. And we'll need to hire someone to help you during the week. 2 teenagers are going to be more work. Rodrigo, it's going to be the best work of my life." Lily fell asleep that night, dreaming of the day her sister would arrive to stay. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Letitia had deep wounds that would take time to heal. But she also knew that love and patience could heal almost everything. And for the first time in a long time, she felt that her family would really be complete. A month later, Letitia arrived to stay. This time she brought 2 suitcases instead of a backpack, and in her eyes there was a mixture of hope and nervousness that Ellie recognized immediately. "Welcome home," said Lily, hugging her sister at the front door. "Home," repeated Letitia, as if she were testing how the words sounded. "It still seems strange to say that." "You'll get used to it," assured Ellie, radiant with happiness. The first days were of careful adaptation. Letitia observed everything attentively, still expecting something to go wrong. She helped with household chores with excessive dedication, as if she wanted to prove that she deserved to be there. "Letitia," said Ellie one morning, finding the girl washing dishes at 6 in the morning, "you don't have to do all this." "I want to help," responded Letitia quickly. "I don't want to be a burden." "Honey, you're not a burden. You're part of the family. But old habits were hard to break. Letitia had spent years in institutions where she had to earn any kindness, and the idea of unconditional love was still difficult to accept. The first crisis came in the second week. Letitia was trying to help Lily with her math homework when she got frustrated for not being able to solve a simple problem. "I don't even know this," she exploded, throwing the pencil away. "How am I going to be able to go back to school if I don't even know children's math?" "Letitia, calm down," tried Lily, scared by her sister's sudden change of mood. "Don't tell me to calm down. You don't understand. I'm dumb. I'm no good for anything." Letitia got up abruptly from the table, knocking over a chair in the process. Ellie appeared in the room, attracted by the noise. "What happened here?" "I ruined everything," said Letitia, tears beginning to stream down. "You're going to see that I'm no good, and you're going to send me away." "No one is going to send you away because of math," said Ellie calmly. "But I broke the chair." "Chairs can be fixed. People can't." Ellie approached the girl slowly, who was leaning against the wall, trembling. "Letitia, do you want to tell me what's really making you like this?" I'm afraid of not being able to keep up at school, of being the oldest and most behind in the class. And why would that be a problem? Because everyone is going to laugh at me. They're going to say that I'm the shelter girl who doesn't know anything. Ellie understood immediately. It wasn't about math. It was about shame, about not feeling good enough. "Honey, sit here with me," she said, indicating the sofa. "I want to tell you something." Letitia hesitated, but sat down. "When I was young, I stopped studying in 5th grade to work and help my family. I only went back to learning to read properly when I was a married adult." "Really? Really? And you know what I discovered? It's never too late to learn. And it doesn't matter what others think. What matters is what you want for yourself." "But what if I really can't do it?" "Then we're going to find a different way for you to learn." "There are many ways to be intelligent, Letitia." Lily, who had been quietly watching, approached her sister. "Letitia, remember when you taught me how to tie my shoe at the shelter? You were very patient with me." "I remember." "Then you know how to be a teacher, and if you know how to teach, you also know how to learn." That afternoon, Ellie called Rodrigo, telling about the episode. "How is she now?" he asked, worried. "Better. We talked a lot, and she understood that she doesn't have to be perfect to be loved." "What about school?" "I'm going to talk to the principal to see if we can do a gradual adaptation period. Maybe start with half a day until she feels more confident." "Good idea. And about therapy?" "I scheduled a consultation for next week. I found a psychologist who works specifically with trauma from abandonment." The following week, Letitia began sessions with Dr. Green, a young and empathetic psychologist who had a different approach than the professionals she had met before. "How do you feel living with your new family?" asked Dr. Green during the first session. "Good, but also scared," responded Letitia honestly. "Scared of what?" "That they'll find out that I'm not a good person." "What makes you think that you're not a good person?" Letitia was quiet for a long time. "Because if I were good, my parents wouldn't have left. And if I were good, I would have managed to protect my sister better." It was the first time that Letitia had verbalized these feelings, and it hurt more than she expected. "Letitia, you were 12 years old when you were separated from Lily. What responsibilities do you think a 12-year-old child should have?" "I was the older sister." "Even so, you were a child. The decisions about where you would live weren't yours to make." During the following weeks, the sessions with Dr. Green helped Letitia understand that many of her fears and angers came from a guilt that wasn't hers to carry. At home, she began to let go more. She helped Ellie in the kitchen, played with Lily in the garden, and even started calling Ellie Grandma naturally. "Grandma Ellie," she said one day, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, honey." "Why are You never angry with me, even when I mess up? Because being angry doesn't solve anything, and because I understand that you're still learning to trust. At the shelter, when the children did something wrong, the ladies got furious. Letitia, anger is a normal feeling, but the way we deal with it is what makes the difference. What if one day you get angry with me? If that happens, we're going to talk about what made me like that, and then we'll solve it together. Promise? I promise. School started in March, and Letitia faced her fears with more courage than she expected. Ellie had talked to the principal, explaining the situation, and the teaching staff was prepared to support her. "How was the first day?" asked Lily anxiously, when Letitia returned. "Better than I thought," admitted Letitia. "The English teacher was very nice to me." "What about the other students?" "Some looked strange, but no one was mean. And there's a girl, Camilla, who offered to help me with the subjects." Ellie smiled proudly. Letitia was finally beginning to open up to new possibilities. 2 weeks later, Rodrigo brought a surprise. "I have a proposal for you," he said during Sunday dinner. "What proposal?" asked Lily and Letitia together. "How about we do the official adoption of you two at the same time?" The girls exchanged surprised glances. "But I just arrived," said Letitia. "Are you sure?" "Letitia," said Ellie firmly, "since the day you stepped into this house, you were already my granddaughter. The paper will only make official what the heart already knows. And that means... It means that you two are going to be officially Sisters Johnson," explained Rodrigo. "And that no one will ever be able to separate you again." Lily began to cry with joy. "We're going to have the same last name?" "Yes, you are. And you're going to have a family forever." Letitia was silent, processing the information. "You really want to adopt me, even knowing all my problems?" "Especially because of them," said Ellie, "because it's when we need family that it's most important." That night the two sisters talked until late in the room they now shared. "Lily," said Letitia, "do you think our parents would be happy knowing that we found a good family?" "I'm sure they would, and the grandma who took care of us too. Sometimes I dream about them, and in the dream they say they're proud of us. Because they are. We survived, Letitia, and now we have a real family." "Lily." "What is it?" "Thank you for never giving up on looking for me. Thank you for always taking care of me." "Forever?" asked Letitia, echoing a promise they made when they were little. "Forever," replied Lily. From the next room, Ellie listened to the girls' conversation and smiled. Her house had filled with life, love, and purpose. 2 wounded children were healing each other, and she had the privilege of witnessing this transformation daily. Soon they would be officially her granddaughters, but in her heart they had been for a long time. The following months were a roller coaster of emotions and paperwork. The adoption process required extensive documentation, interviews with social workers, and psychological evaluations of the whole family. Lily and Letitia went through this with a mixture of anxiety and hope. "Is it normal for it to take so long?" asked Letitia during one of the visits from the social worker, Mrs. Evans. "Adoption processes are complex, especially when they involve 2 children, explained Mrs. Evans patiently. "But you're in a clearly loving and stable environment. That makes it a lot easier." Ellie had meticulously prepared for each official visit. The house was always impeccable, the documents organized, and she answered each question with the confidence of someone who knew she was doing the right thing. "Are you sure you can take care of 2 teenagers?" asked Mrs. Evans during an interview. "Young woman," replied Ellie firmly. "I spent 5 years in this wheelchair feeling useless. These girls gave me back my life. If there's anything I'm sure of, it's that I can take care of them. And financially, how are you going to support the 2? My son Rodrigo is assuming all financial responsibilities, and my pension covers the basic necessities." During this period, an unexpected event brought a new perspective to the family. Lily arrived from school one day with her face red from crying so much. "What happened, honey?" asked Ellie, worried. "The teacher asked us to write an essay about our family," sobbed Lily, "and Mariana said I was lying because I don't have a real family." Letitia, who was doing homework at the kitchen table, raised her head immediately. "Who is this Mariana?" "A girl from my class. She said that adoptive family isn't a real family." Letitia's expression hardened. "Where does she live?" Letitia," intervened Ellie quickly, recognizing the signs that the girl was getting angry. "Violence doesn't solve anything." "But she hurt my sister. And you think fighting with her is going to make Lily feel better?" Letitia stopped to think. In recent months, she had learned to take a deep breath before reacting with anger. "No, but I want to do something." "Then let's do it together," suggested Ellie. "Lily, do you want me to go to school to talk to your teacher?" "It's not necessary, Grandma, but is Mariana right? Is adoptive family not a real family?" "Honey," said Ellie, calling the two girls to sit close to her, "family has nothing to do with blood. Family is who chooses to love you, take care of you, and be present in the good and bad times." "What about our real parents?" asked Lily. "Your parents were people you loved and who loved you while they could. That doesn't change, but now you have a new family that chose you and that you chose too." "It's like we have two families?" asked Letitia. "Exactly. The heart has room for a lot of love." The next day, Letitia did something that surprised everyone. Instead of confronting Mariana aggressively, she looked for the girl during recess. "You told my sister that adoptive family isn't a real family," she said calmly. Mariana, who was smaller and younger, was intimidated. I was just telling the truth." "You know what's the truth? My sister and I became orphans very young. We went hungry, cold, and we were mistreated. Now we have a family that loves us, takes care of us, and makes sure we're together. If that's not a real family, I don't know what is." "You weren't born with them." "So what? They chose us, and we chose them. Isn't that more special than simply being born into a family?" Mariana was thoughtful. I never thought like that." "Then next time, think before you hurt someone. With your words." When Lily heard what Letitia had done, she was proud of her sister. "You didn't fight with her." "No. Grandma Ellie is right. Talking works better than fighting." "And it worked?" "It did. Today at lunchtime she came to apologize. To me, it was a clear sign of how Letitia was maturing and learning to deal with conflicts in a healthier way. In June, the news that everyone was waiting for finally arrived. Rodrigo called one Saturday morning, clearly emotional. "Mom, Mrs. Evans just called me. The adoption has been approved," Ellie shouted with joy, and the girls came running to find out what had happened. "Girls," she said with tears in her eyes, "you are now officially Lily Johnson and Letitia Johnson." The two sisters hugged each other and began to cry together. After so long, they finally had not only a family, but also a last name that legally united them. "When is the ceremony going to be?" asked Letitia. "Next week at City Hall, and you can invite whoever you want to witness." Lily thought immediately of old Joe from the bakery, who had been so kind to her when she was on the street. Letitia wanted to invite Mrs. Carter, her teacher, who had been so patient during her school adaptation. The week flew by. Ellie had new dresses made for the girls, and Rodrigo organized a small party for after the ceremony. On the appointed day, the whole family headed to City Hall. Lily was nervous but happy, wearing her light blue dress. Letitia had chosen a pink dress, a color she had avoided for years but now wore with pride. The ceremony was simple but moving. The judge, Mr. Thompson, was a kind man who explained the legal meaning of the adoption. in a way that the girls could understand. "From today," he said, "you are officially daughters of Ellie Johnson and granddaughters of Rodrigo Johnson. This means that you have all the rights and responsibilities of a family." "And no one can ever separate us?" asked Lily. "Never again," confirmed the judge with a smile. When they signed the documents, Ellie with a hand trembling with emotion, the girls with their still childish handwritings, everyone in the room was touched. "Now you can hug each other as an official family," said Mr. Thompson. The triple hug that followed was photographed by Rodrigo and would become one of the family's most precious images. At the party that followed, at Ellie's house, everyone who had been part of the journey was present. Old Joe, Mrs. Carter, Mrs. Evans, Dr. Green, and several neighbors who had followed the transformation of the family. "I want to make a speech," said Lily timidly, climbing onto a chair so that everyone could see her. "When I was little and lived on the street, I thought I would never have a real family. Today I discovered that family isn't just who you're born with, but who chooses to stay with you." She looked at Ellie. "Grandma Ellie taught me that being loved isn't something we need to earn. It's something we receive for free." Then she looked at Letitia. "My sister taught me that even when everything seems lost, love always finds a way." And finally, at Rodrigo. "Uncle Rodrigo taught me that sometimes the best families are those that we build, not those that we inherit." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Letitia also wanted to speak. "I spent years thinking that I was bad, that's why bad things happened to me. This family taught me that I'm not defined by the bad things that happened to me, but by the way I choose to move forward. And now," said Ellie, raising her glass of grape juice, "let's toast to our Johnson family." "To the Johnson family!" everyone shouted together. That night, when the party was over and the guests had left, the 3 generations of the family sat on the porch, watching the stars of Willow Creek. "Do you think our parents would be proud?" asked Letitia. "I'm absolutely sure," replied Ellie. "You've become brave, kind, and intelligent girls. Any parent would be proud." "And the grandma who took care of us too," added Lily. "Especially her. She planted in you the love and strength that allowed you to survive until you found a new family. It was the perfect ending to a journey that had begun with so much suffering. 2 orphan sisters had found not only a home, but a complete family that had chosen them and loved them unconditionally. And as they watched the stars, they knew that their story of overcoming and love was just beginning." 6 months after the official adoption, life at the Johnsons' house had found a perfect rhythm. Lily, now 7 years old, was among the best students. In her class, reading entire books and helping Ellie with increasingly complex recipes. Letitia, at 15, had fully recovered her self-esteem and excelled at school, especially in writing and history. "Grandma," said Letitia one Saturday morning, "the English teacher wants me to participate in an essay contest about overcoming." "That's wonderful!" exclaimed Ellie. "What are you going to write about?" "About our family, about how 3 lonely people found each other and became a complete family." Lily raised her eyes from the drawing she was making. "Can I help? I know some pretty words now." "Of course you can," smiled Letitia. "We're a team." Rodrigo arrived for Sunday lunch, bringing unexpected news. "I have a proposal for you," he said, after they had finished eating Ellie's traditional chicken pot pie. "Another proposal?" joked Lily. "The last one changed our whole life." "This one may change it again," said Rodrigo, smiling. "How about if I moved to Willow Creek?" The silence that followed was of pure surprise. "Move here?" asked Ellie. "And your company in Pittsburgh? I can manage it from anywhere, and I realize that I don't want to miss any more important moments in your lives." "Uncle Rodrigo," said Letitia, touched, "would you really do that?" "I would. In fact, I've already found a house here in the neighborhood. It's 2 streets from here. But why? Asked Lily. Because you taught me that family is more important than work, and because I want to be present in your daily lives, not just on weekends. Ellie was with tears in her eyes. Rodrigo, are you sure? Mom, I spent 5 years visiting you sporadically, always feeling guilty. Now that we have a real family, I want to be part of it completely. Rodrigo's move happened 2 months later and brought an even better dynamic to the family. He started picking up the girls from school, helped with homework, and even learned to cook some of Ellie's recipes. I never thought I'd see my son making fudge brownies, laughed Ellie, watching Rodrigo in the kitchen with the girls. I never thought I was going to be so good at it, he admitted, proud of the sweets that were turning out perfect. It was during this time of family harmony that they received an unexpected visit. Miss Jenkins, the director of the shelter in Harmony Falls, appeared one afternoon with a serious expression. I came to talk to Letitia, she said. It's about one of the girls who was at the shelter at the same time as her. Letitia tensed up immediately. Did something happen? Amanda, do you remember her? The curly-haired girl who always stayed quiet in the corner. I remember, said Letitia cautiously. What about her? She's turning 18 next month and leaving the system. She has nowhere to go and, well, she always talked a lot about you. She asked if we knew where you were. And what does that have to do with me? She's going through a very difficult time. She can't get a job. She doesn't have developed social skills. When she found out that you were okay with a family, she thought if you could help her in some way. Ellie and Rodrigo exchanged glances. They knew that situation well, a young woman leaving the system without preparation for adult life. Is she asking for help? Asked Ellie. Not directly. She has a lot of pride, but she's desperate. Letitia was thoughtful. She remembered Amanda, a shy girl who had arrived at the shelter after her, a victim of family neglect. They weren't close, but Letitia always felt sorry for her. What do you think? What do you think? Asked Letitia to the family. What do you think? Replied Rodrigo. It's your decision. I would like to help, but I don't know how. How about we bring her to spend a weekend here? Suggested Ellie, for her to see that it's possible to have a different life. And then? Then we'll see what she needs, maybe help to find a job or a place to stay while she gets organized. Our family can do that. Our family, said Rodrigo firmly, can do anything that is good and right. Amanda arrived the following Friday, visibly nervous and embarrassed. At 17, she looked older, with the tired expression of someone who had lost her illusions too early. Hi, Letitia, she said timidly. Hi, Amanda. You've grown so much. You too. And you look different, happier. It's because I'm happier, said Letitia sincerely. Come on, I want to introduce you to my family. The weekend was revealing. Amanda watched everything with fascination, the way the family interacted, how they resolved conflicts by talking, how they supported each other. I've never seen a family work like this, she confessed to Letitia on Saturday night. I hadn't, either. I only learned it here. And they really adopted you, even though you were older. They did. Age didn't matter to them. You're so lucky. I am. But I also struggle to deserve that luck every day. How so? I go to therapy. I try. Hard at school, I help at home. Family is everyday work. On Sunday, Amanda made a confession that surprised everyone. I'm afraid to leave the shelter, she said during lunch. I don't know how to do anything. I have nowhere to go. Everyone is afraid of the unknown, said Ellie gently. The important thing is not to let fear paralyze you. But you learned all this as a family. I'm alone. Amanda, said Rodrigo, if you want, we can help you prepare for adult life, not as charity, but as an extension of our family. How so? You can come here on weekends, learn practical things with us, cooking, managing money, looking for a job. And when you leave the shelter, if you need a temporary place to stay, we can talk about it." Amanda began to cry. "You would do that for me?" "We would," answered Lily, without hesitating. "That's how family works." "But I'm not family to you." "Not yet," said Ellie with a smile, "but family is also something that is built." In the following months, Amanda became a regular visitor to the Johnsons' house. She learned to cook with Ellie, received professional guidance from Rodrigo, and developed a special relationship with the two sisters. "It's like having an older sister," commented Lily. "It's like having younger sisters," replied Amanda, who was flourishing under the family's care. When Amanda turned 18 and officially left the system, the Johnson family organized a party for her. It was small but significant, the first birthday party she had had in years. "I want to make a thank you," said Amanda, visibly moved. "You showed me that it's possible to build a chosen family, that we don't have to accept loneliness just because we weren't lucky at birth." "And what are you going to do now?" asked Letitia. "I got a job at a store downtown, and I rented a small room, but it's mine. But mostly I learned that I can count on you." "Always," assured Ellie. "Our table will always have a place for you." That night, after Amanda went to her new home, the Johnson family gathered in the living room to talk. "I'm proud of you," said Ellie to the girls. "You learned to reach out to those in need." "We learned with you," said Letitia. "That's what you did with us." "And now Amanda is going to be all right?" asked Lily. "She will," replied Rodrigo, "because she learned what you learned, that we're not alone in the world." "Uncle Rodrigo," said Lily thoughtfully, "does our family only grow?" "Families of the heart always have room for more love," he explained. "So maybe one day we'll find more people who need family?" "Maybe," smiled Ellie. "But for now, how about we enjoy this perfect family we have?" "Forever?" asked Lily and Letitia together, repeating the old promise. "Forever," replied Ellie and Rodrigo in unison. And in that house in Willow Creek, a family built by love and choice continued to write their story of overcoming, one page at a time. 2 years later, the Johnsons' house had become a landmark in the neighborhood. It was common to see children from the neighborhood playing in the garden, mothers asking Ellie for advice, and young people like Amanda showing up to talk to Rodrigo about job opportunities. Lily, now 9 years old, had become one of the best students at school and developed a special passion for writing stories. Her essays always talked about different families, brave children, and kind adults who changed lives. "Teacher," she said to Mrs. Carter one afternoon, "can I write a story about a girl who saved a grandma and gained a family?" "Of course you can, Lily, but isn't that story a lot like yours?" "It's exactly mine," smiled Lily. "But I think other children need to know that these things can really happen." Letitia, at 17, had become a confident and determined young woman. She was in her senior year of high school and dreamed of studying social work at university. "I want to help other children like us," she explained to the family during dinner. "Children who have lost hope and need to discover that they can still be happy." "You would be an excellent social worker," said Rodrigo proudly. "You have first-hand experience and a lot of love to give." "And I'm going to continue living here while I study?" she asked, still insecure about separations. "Honey," said Ellie firmly, "this is your home forever. University doesn't change that." Ellie, at 81, was more active and happy than she had been in her entire adult life. Her physical limitations hadn't improved, but her spirit had completely rejuvenated. "You know," she said to Rodrigo one morning while they had coffee together, "I never imagined that my last years would be the best of my life." "Why, Mom?" "Because I discovered my true purpose. It wasn't just raising a son, it was creating a family that could house any child who needed love." Rodrigo, now 47, had found a perfect balance between work and family. His company continued to thrive, but he never let business interfere with important moments with the girls. "Dad," said Lily. She had started calling him that naturally. "In the last year, do you regret moving here?" "Never," he replied without hesitating. "This was the best decision of my life." It was one September morning that they received a visit that would once again change the family's dynamic. Mrs. Evans, the social worker who had followed the adoption process, appeared with an expression that mixed urgency and hope. "I have a case that I would like to present to you," she said, sitting in the familiar living room. "What kind of case?" asked Rodrigo, immediately alert. 5-year-old twins. The parents died in an accident 6 months ago, and they're in a temporary shelter. They are very traumatized children, especially the boy. "And what's the problem?" asked Ellie. "No one wants to adopt the two together, and they refuse to be separated." Lily and Letitia exchanged glances. They knew well the terror of being separated from a sibling. "What are their names?" asked Lily. "Michael and Emily. They are very attached to each other, but Michael developed selective mutism after the trauma. He only speaks with his sister." "Poor things," murmured Ellie. "And where are they now?" "At the same shelter where Lily came from. The conditions have improved a little, but it's not a place for children so young to stay for too long." "Mrs. Evans," said Letitia thoughtfully, "why did you come talk to us?" "Because you are the only family I know that really understands what it means not to separate siblings, and because you have experience with traumatized children." "But we're already a big family," pondered Rodrigo. 5 people, plus Amanda, who is always here." 6 people, corrected Lily. "Don't forget that Hart family always has room." Ellie smiled, hearing her own words repeated by her granddaughter. "Would you like to meet them?" asked Mrs. Evans. "No commitment, just to see if there's any connection." "I would like to," said Lily immediately. "Me too," agreed Letitia. "No one should grow up without a sibling." The following Saturday, they all went to the shelter to meet Michael and Emily. The children were small and thin, with big eyes that carried an immense sadness. Emily spoke little, and Michael didn't speak at all, only holding his sister's hand tightly. "Hi," said Lily gently, crouching down to the children's height. "I'm Lily." Emily looked at her with curiosity. "Did you live here too?" "I did. And Letitia here is my sister. We've always stayed together too." "Always, really?" asked Emily hopefully. "Always. Even when they tried to separate us, we never gave up on finding each other." Michael whispered something in Emily's ear, who translated, "He wants to know if you have a family now." "We do. A family that loves us very much and that never separates us." "And she would want more children." Lily looked at Ellie, who nodded, with a smile. "Our grandma always says that a house that has room for 1 child has room for 2, and a place for 2 has room for 4. Emily began to cry, and Michael hugged her protectively. "Do you want to see our house?" asked Letitia. "Can we go together?" asked Emily. "Of course you can. Siblings never separate." The twins' visit to the Johnsons' house was magical. Michael, who didn't talk to anyone, whispered, "Thank you" to Ellie when she offered him a glass of milk and cookies. Emily was delighted with the girls' room and asked if they could all sleep together like a real family. "That's what we want to be," she said to Ellie before leaving. "A real family." That night, the Johnson family had their most important conversation in years. "Do you know what it means to adopt 2 more children?" asked Rodrigo. "It means that our table is going to be more crowded," said Lily pragmatically. "It means that I'm going to have to teach 2 more children to read," added Ellie. "It means that I'm going to have 2 more siblings to take care of," said Letitia. "And it means," concluded Rodrigo, "that our family is going to be complete once and for all." "So let's do it?" asked Lily. "Let's," everyone answered in unison. 6 months later, Michael and Emily Johnson ran through the garden of the house, laughing and playing like any normal child. Michael had not only started talking again, but had become a talkative boy who enchanted everyone with his intelligence and humor. Emily had developed a passion for cooking and spent hours in the kitchen with Ellie, learning recipes and creating her own variations. "Grandma," said Emily one morning, "why did you want us?" "Because family isn't about wanting, honey. It's about loving, and love always has room for more. Even if we're messy, especially for being messy," laughed Ellie. Too quiet a house isn't a happy house. At Ellie's 82nd birthday party, the table was full. Rodrigo, Lily, Letitia, Michael, Emily, Amanda, who was now considered officially part of the family, Mrs. Carter, old Joe, and several neighbors who had followed the family's journey. "I want to make a toast," said Ellie, raising her glass with Rodrigo's help. "5 years ago, I was a lonely woman who had lost the purpose of her life. Today, I am the grandmother of 5 wonderful children, the mother of a son who rediscovered the value of family, and the matriarch of a house that is never empty of love." "To Grandma Ellie," shouted all the children together. "No," she corrected with tears in her eyes, "to our family. The family that we proved can be built with love, patience, and lots of good food." Everyone laughed and toasted, and at that moment, watching that table full of people who had chosen each other, Ellie knew that her life had been complete. Lily, now 10 years old, took her notebook and began to write a new story. It was about a brave girl who saved a grandma, found her lost sister, gained a loving father, and helped build the biggest heart family that Willow Creek had ever seen. And when she finished the story, she wrote at the end, "And they lived happily ever after, because they learned that love multiplies instead of dividing." It was the purest truth she knew. 3 years had passed since the arrival of the twins, and the Johnsons' house had become a living legend in Willow Creek. People from neighboring towns came to meet the family that had transformed abandoned children into confident and accomplished young people. Lily, now 13 years old, had just won first place in the state essay contest with her story, "The Family That the Heart Chose." Her narrative touched the judges by telling how a street girl became a writer thanks to the love of an adoptive grandmother. "Lily," said the school principal at a special ceremony, "your essay is going to be published in a book about overcoming childhood trauma. How does it feel?" "Happy," she answered simply. "I hope other children read it and discover that there is always hope." Letitia, at 20, was in her 2nd year of social work and was interning at the very shelter she had come from. It was a beautiful irony of fate. The girl who one day had been considered problematic was now helping other children with similar difficulties. "Letitia," said Ms. Thompson, the new director of the shelter, "you have a special gift for dealing with the most difficult children. They trust you in a way I've never seen." "It's because I know exactly how they feel," explained Letitia. "When you've been to the bottom of the well, you can show other people that it's possible to climb up." Michael and Emily, now 8 years old, had completely transformed. Michael had not only started talking again, but had become a chatty boy who charmed everyone with his intelligence and humor. Emily had developed a passion for cooking and spent hours in the kitchen with Ellie, learning recipes and creating her own variations. "Grandma," said Emily one morning, "when I grow up, I want to have a house just like this one." "How so, honey?" "A house where texto da parte 8 aqui, já adaptado para inglês, com a história se passando nos Estados Unidos. Sad kids can become happy." "And do you think you could do that?" "I think so. You taught me that loving isn't hard. You just have to want to." Rodrigo, at 50, had become a pillar of the community in Willow Creek. His company had grown, but he never lost focus on his family. Recently, he had started a social project offering job opportunities to young people leaving the county shelter. "Dad," asked Michael one night, "why do you help so many people?" "Because I learned from you guys that when we receive a lot of love, we need to share it with others. And did we receive a lot of love? More than you can imagine." Ellie, at 84, was more frail physically, but her spirit remained radiant. She had become the unofficial grandma of dozens of kids in the neighborhood who came to her for advice, graham crackers and hugs. "Grandma Ellie," asked Julia, Lily's old friend who was now 13, "how do you manage to love so many people at the same time?" "My dear," Ellie replied wisely, "the heart isn't like a cake that gets smaller when you share it. It's like a candle that lights other candles without losing its own light." Amanda, now 23, had become the manager of the store where she worked and was engaged to Carlos, a kind young man she had met through the Johnson family. She still came to the house every Sunday, bringing her fiancé for family lunches. "Ellie," Carlos said on one of those occasions, "Amanda always says that you saved her life." "We didn't save anything," Ellie corrected him. "We just showed her that she always had value. She did the rest herself. But she says she arrived here without hope and left here with a family, but the courage to rebuild. Her life was all her own." It was on a Sunday afternoon, exactly 5 years after the first meeting between Lily and Ellie, that something extraordinary happened. Lily was in the garden writing in her notebook when an unfamiliar woman stopped at the gate. "Excuse me," said the woman timidly. "Is this the Johnson family's house?" "Yes, it is," Lily replied, rising politely. I heard about you. My name is Sandra, and I have a 7-year-old nephew who was recently orphaned. He's with me, but I work too much and, well, I don't know how to take care of a child." Lily felt her heart race. She called Ellie, who came in her wheelchair to the gate. "Good afternoon, Mom," said the nervous woman. "Sorry to bother you, but several people told me that you sometimes help children." "Sometimes," Ellie said with a smile. "Our hearts find children who need us, and sometimes they find us. My nephew's name is Bruno. He lost his parents in an accident 2 months ago. Since then he hasn't spoken to anyone, doesn't eat properly, has nightmares every night." "Where is he now?" "In the car." Sandra pointed to a car parked on the street. "He didn't want to get out." Lily looked at Ellie, who nodded. The girl walked to the car and saw a dark-haired boy huddled in the back seat, hugging a tattered teddy bear. "Hi," she said gently through the window. "I'm Lily." The boy looked at her with big, scared eyes, but didn't reply. "You?" "No, I also lost my parents when I was little, and I was very scared too." Bruno slightly raised his head. "Want to know a secret? I used to live on the street, alone, hungry and cold. I thought I'd never be happy again." "And did you?" Bruno asked in an almost inaudible voice. "I did. I found a family who taught me that being an orphan doesn't mean being alone forever." "How?" "Come with me and I'll show you." Bruno hesitated, but something in Lily's voice reassured him. He got out of the car, holding his teddy bear and her hand. When they entered the house, they found everyone gathered in the living room. Ellie, Rodrigo, Letitia, Michael, Emily and Amanda with Carlos. It was a typical Sunday family scene, with the smell of good food coming from the kitchen and the sound of lively conversation. "Everyone," announced Lily, "this is Bruno. He needs to meet our family." "Hi, Bruno," said Michael, who still remembered what it was like to be the new, scared kid. "Do you like to play ball?" Bruno nodded shyly. "Then after lunch we can play in the backyard. I'll teach you some tricks." "And do you like graham crackers?" asked Emily. "I just made some chocolate ones." "I do," Bruno whispered. "Then come with me to the kitchen. I'll give you some warm ones." During lunch, Bruno watched, fascinated, how this family functioned. Everyone talked at the same time, laughed together, helped each other. It was the opposite of the heavy silence that had taken over his aunt's house since the loss of his parents. "Bruno," Ellie said gently, "tell me a little about yourself." I like to draw," he said hesitantly. "But after Mom and Dad left, I can't anymore." "Lily likes to draw too," said Ellie, "and to write stories. Maybe she can teach you." "Would you write a story about me?" Bruno asked Lily. "I would. But first I want you to start drawing again, so I know how to finish the story. What if I can't? Then we'll try together. Sometimes things get easier when we have help." In the late afternoon, when Sandra came to pick up Bruno, he was playing in the garden with Michael and Emily, laughing for the first time in months. "He's different," Sandra observed, touched. "He's remembering what it's like to be a child," Ellie explained. "Bruno, would you like to come back here another day?" "Can I?" he asked hopefully. "Always. Our table always has room for one more." "Aunt Sandra," Bruno said, tugging at her sleeve, "can I come here every Sunday?" Sandra looked at that family who had transformed her nephew in just a few hours. "If they let you, of course you can." "We do," said Rodrigo, "and if one day you need more help, we'll be here." That night, after Bruno and Sandra had left, the family gathered in the living room to talk. "Another child?" Rodrigo asked with a smile. "Another child," Ellie confirmed. "Bruno just needs to remember that he can be happy again." "What if his aunt can't take care of him properly?" asked Letitia. "Then we'll see what we can do," Ellie replied simply. "Like we always have." Lily picked up her notebook and began to write a new story. It was about a boy named Bruno who had lost his parents but found a family that would help him discover that love doesn't die with the people we lose, but continues to live in every new person we choose to love. As she wrote, she looked around. The room where her own life had changed forever, 5 years ago. From a 6-year-old girl living on the street, she had become a confident teenager with a family that seemed to never stop growing. "Grandma Ellie," she said softly, "thank you for saving me that day." "My dear," Ellie replied with tears in her eyes, "you saved me. You gave me back a purpose in life. And now we continue saving each other, one day at a time." It was the most beautiful truth that Lily knew. In her home, love not only multiplied, it perpetuated, creating an infinite cycle of healing and hope that touched every life that passed through it. And as the sun set over Willow Creek, the Johnson family prepared for another day of loving, caring, and showing the world that true family is the one we choose to build with our hearts. 10 years had passed since that rainy March day when Lily saved Ellie from the muggers. The little street girl had become a 23-year-old woman, graduated in journalism, working as a reporter specializing in stories of family overcoming adversity. It was a sunny spring morning when Lily returned to Willow Creek for a very special occasion. Ellie was turning 95, and the whole family had gathered to celebrate the matriarch who had changed so many lives. "I can't believe it's been 10 years since I graduated," Lily said to Letitia as they prepared the party in the garden of the family home. Letitia, now a social worker recognized throughout the region, smiled. "And I can't believe it's been 15 years since we found each other again. It seems like yesterday. And at the same time, it seems like we've always been this family." Michael, at 18, was finishing high school and had decided to follow in Rodrigo's footsteps in business, but with a focus on social projects. Emily, also 18, they were fraternal twins, had become a promising chef and worked at the best restaurant in Harmony Falls. "Emily," Ellie called from the porch where she sat watching the preparations, "did you bring that special cornbread you promised me?" "I did, Grandma. It's your recipe, but with my own special touch." "What touch?" "Extra love," Emily laughed, using the answer that Ellie always gave when asked the secret of her recipes. Bruno, now 17, had officially become part of the family 2 years earlier, when his Aunt Sandra realized that she couldn't offer the care he needed. The shy boy who had arrived on Sundays had transformed into a talented young artist with dreams of studying fine arts. "Lily," he said, showing a drawing he had made, "I finished the family portrait to give to Grandma Ellie as a gift." The drawing was impressive. It showed all of them on the porch of the house, from Ellie in her wheelchair to the latest additions to the family, including Amanda and Carlos, who had married and had 2 small children who called Ellie great-grandma. "It's beautiful, Bruno. She'll be touched." Rodrigo, at 60, watched everything with a smile on his face. He had retired early to dedicate himself fully to his family and social projects. His company continued to operate under new management, but he had found his true calling, taking care of the people he loved. "Dad," said Michael, "do you regret anything in these last 10 years? "Only one thing," Rodrigo replied thoughtfully. "What?" "That I took so long to understand that family is more important than anything else in life." The party was being prepared not only for the family but for the whole community. Over the years, the Johnsons' house had become a symbol in Willow Creek. Dozens of children had passed through there, some only for Sunday lunches, others for longer stays, and some, like Bruno, to stay permanently. "Mrs. Carter," said Mrs. Carter, now retired but still a close friend of the family, "do you know how many lives you've touched?" "I don't know, and it doesn't matter," Ellie replied wisely. "What matters is that every child who passed through here left knowing that they are loved. Even so, it must be more than 100 different children. And each of them taught me something about love." As the sun began to set and all the guests had arrived, Lily climbed on a chair to make a special speech. "Exactly 10 years ago," she began, "I published my first book telling our story. Since then, I have received thousands of letters from families who have been inspired to adopt, from children who have not lost hope, from adults who have decided to open their homes to those in need." The crowd listened in respectful silence. "But today, I am not here as a famous writer," Lily continued. "I am here as a granddaughter, sister, and daughter of this incredible family. And I want to tell you what I have discovered in these 10 years. She paused, looking at Ellie. "I discovered that love is not just a feeling. It's a decision we make every day. Grandma Ellie didn't love me because I was perfect. She loved me because she decided to love me, even when I was scared, even when it was difficult, even when I didn't know how to repay her properly. And that decision," she continued, "spread. Each person who passed through this house learned that they can be loved and that they can love other people too. That's how we change the world, one family at a time. For that, Grandma Ellie, I don't want to thank you only for saving me. I want to thank you for teaching me that we can all be someone's saviors." The audience erupted in applause, and many were crying. Ellie, touched but still lucid at 95, asked to speak. "My dears," she said in a weak but firm voice, "when Lily appeared in my life, I thought I was doing charity. Today, I know that she did charity to me. During these years, I learned that there are no problematic children. There are children with problems, and problems are solved with love, patience, and lots of hugs. Each of you who is here today is part of this extended family, because family is not about DNA, it's about choice. It's about waking up every day and deciding, today I'm going to love this person. Today I'm going to take care of this person. Today I'm going to be present. And if there's something I want to leave as a legacy," she said, looking especially at the children present, "it's this. Never let a child believe that they are not loved, because a loved child becomes an adult who loves, and the world needs more people who know how to love. Now," she said with a mischievous smile, "let's eat this cornbread before I get even older." Everyone laughed and headed to the lavish table prepared in the garden. Later, when the party was over and the guests had left, the nuclear family gathered in the living room for a more intimate moment. "Grandma," said Lily, "can I ask a question?" "Of course, my dear." "If you could go back in time and change something, would you?" Ellie thought for a long moment. "I would only change one thing. I would have started helping children much earlier. I lost many years being just a lonely old woman." "But what if you hadn't lost Grandpa? What if you hadn't been alone? Maybe you would never have met us." "That's true," Ellie smiled. "Then I wouldn't change anything, because everything that happened brought me to you." "And where do we go from here?" asked Bruno. "Where we've always gone," Ellie replied. "Forward, taking care of each other, opening our house to those who need it, and showing the world that family is built with the heart." "Forever?" asked Lily and Letitia together, repeating the old promise. "Forever." "Everyone," replied in unison. That night, Lily wrote in her diary the words that would become the epilogue of her second book. 10 years ago, a street girl found a grandmother of heart. Today, an entire family proves every day that love is the most powerful force in the universe. Not because it eliminates the pain, but because it transforms it into purpose. Not because it makes everything easy, but because it makes everything possible. In our house, we learned that family isn't destiny, it's choice. It's not inheritance, it's construction. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. And as long as there are children who need to know they are loved, our door will remain open, our table will have an extra place, and our heart will have room for one more. Because that's what true love is: infinite, multiplying, eternal. Outside, the stars shone over Willow Creek, witnessing another day in the life of a family that had proven that miracles happen when ordinary people decide to do extraordinary things for the simple reason that it is the right thing to do. And in the yellow house on Flower Street, where it all began with a cry for help and an act of courage, love continued writing its most beautiful story, a story that had no end, because true love never ends. It only multiplies and spreads, touching every life it encounters along the way. That was how a family of the heart changed the world. One hug, one meal, one word of encouragement at a time. And that was how Lily, Letitia, Michael, Emily, Bruno, and all the others knew that no matter what happened, they would always have a place to call home and people to call family forever.